Chapter 1480. On the other side, the Phoenix Emperor continued to chase after Yun Yang, chasing him until there was no way out. In the end, for some unknown reason, a certain someone actually plunged headfirst into the sea. The Phoenix Emperor did not hesitate, evaporating the sea where Yun Yang had plunged into with the fire of nirvana. However, he did not find anything specific, so he could only return unwillingly. However, when he returned, he saw the huge gap that had not been repaired at all. He felt like his head was about to explode. What's going on? The Phoenix Emperor's roar resounded through the sky. Even the demon race's sovereigns, who had lived together for tens of thousands of years, had never seen the Phoenix Emperor lose his composure and lose his temper. He glared and almost strangled the Eagle Emperor to death. What's going on? The Eagle Emperor was so stifled that he danced. It's Dongfang Haoren and the others? Then why aren't you moving the mountain? The Phoenix Emperor's roar shook the world. Are the four of you just standing here as supervisors? The Rock Emperor and the others could only work obediently in front of the enraged Phoenix Emperor. It was best to avoid conflict for the time being. How many days do you need to repair it? At least 3 days. Bullsh *T. The Phoenix Emperor was furious. 2 days at most. If it can't be repaired, everyone can die. At this moment, the Phoenix Emperor's rage was about to burn the entire world. He wanted nothing more than to burn everything to the ground. It was not that he was not well-mannered, but the choice at this juncture in time was 2F** King impulsive. The ambush by the human race's top combat power was 2F** King incisive. The damage caused was simply subversive, enough to affect the entire situation. Strictly speaking, the gaps formed by the four rulers were located at critical points and were not easy to repair. However, with the demon race's demonic power, it was not a big problem. At most, it would take 2 to 3 days to repair. However, the crux of the problem was obviously not this. Even if the top of the demon race spared no effort to repair this gap in 2 days, what about the seawater that had flowed through the gap? It was definitely not something that could be gathered back in just 2 days. Although the sea was said to be endless, it was not easy to divert the water here. No matter how hard the experts of the sea race tried to divert the seawater back, without around 20 days, it would be difficult to make up for the lost seawater. The time for the strategy of exterminating the world was set to be 20 days later. This time was fixed and could not be changed. The Demon Emperor had personally made a sacrifice to the demon ancestor, and his name was heard from above the 9 heavens. If he couldn't fulfill his promise, who would bear the wrath of the demon ancestor? All members of the sea race, all members of the dragon race, all members of the sea race and the demon race. The Phoenix Emperor was enraged. Everyone, perform your duties and do your best to repair the flaws. Those who transport water, those who create clouds and rain, and those who melt the volcano? Time is of the essence, Meng Hao said. We can't afford to lose even a single moment of time. Starting today, the demon soul sacrificial rite will trigger the volcano to erupt. Sea folk, move all the targeted underwater volcanoes here. Stuff them into the waterway gap as fast as possible. If there are any leftovers, send them to the Blood Soul stronghold. Starting today, the prelude to the strategy of exterminating the world will be activated. The Phoenix Emperor's extreme rage exploded from the bottom of his heart, causing him to act almost crazily. This was because he clearly recognized the reality. The situation had changed drastically. If he did not adapt to the situation, the strategy of exterminating the world that the demon race and sea race had painstakingly prepared might really come to a premature end. This outcome was obviously a heavy responsibility that even the Phoenix Emperor could not bear. On the other side, in the Fox Emperor city. What should we do next? Dongfang Haoren looked at Yun Yang. The four rulers still had unconcealable smiles on their faces. For the sake of safety, the Bound of Universe humans had only sent 4 rulers to participate in this operation. The other 6 saint-level experts did not make a move and only stayed behind to provide support to ensure their safety. Reality proved that the support was indeed useless. In terms of the outcome of this battle, there were only 3 words: exhilarating. Not only had they managed to stop the world annihilation stratagem, but they had also personally witnessed the mysterious yellow supreme cloud, whose might had shaken the world, flee in a sorry state with his tail between his legs. Furthermore, it had been caused by him. The 4 rulers felt a great sense of accomplishment, and they felt extremely carefree. Brother Yun. Shimin Fanfu looked serious. The next time you do something so dangerous, don't bring sister-in-law along. It's too dangerous. As a senior and someone who's experienced it, I have to say something about you. Look at what you've done. Yun Yang looked frantic and depressed. Was this something I did? Do you think I wanted to? You're too young and inconsiderate. Dongfang Haoren looked displeased. Tell me, what do you think you're doing? If sister-in-law's pretty face is, tell me it'll be a lifelong regret. He looked exasperated at Yun Yang. The corners of Yun Yang's lips twitched. These old things, not only are they making fun of me, they're also trying to sow discord between us as husband and wife. I don't believe that you wouldn't have used the fire of nirvana if you knew how domineering it is. Don't fall for it, both of you. These people aren't good people. Yin Yang told the two girls. However, the two girls glared at him in unison. Obviously, Dongfang Haoren's voice was filled with concern, allowing his provocation to be effective. You just don't care about us. Maybe you're thinking that it'll be easier for you to find another one after we're disfigured. What a wild ambition. You're insane. You must have a lover already. You must have someone outside. Men are all big pig trotters. Do you think we don't know you're a playboy? Full of flirting thoughts. You've gone too far. You're openly harming people. Yun Yang looked aggrieved. He had no idea where the two girls were coming from. That man, Dongfang Haoren, and the rest were delighted to see that their provocation was successful, but they continued to fan the flames. Go. Sister-in-law, calm down. Actually, it's not a big deal. It's not that bad. That's right, it's just a small matter. I already knew that Brother Yun isn't that kind of person when I went to drink with the courtesans the last time. Sister-in-law, please calm down. I can guarantee that nothing happened between Yun Yang and the girl from the brothel called Little Lotus. There's nothing between them. Yun Yang's nose was almost crooked from his anger. Is this how you mediate a fight? I just want to ask, is this how you mediate a fight? Are you trying to kill me by harming people so openly? Seeing how the four of you are so leisurely and carefree, it seems like you have the pearl of wisdom in your hands and everything is under your control. I, Yun, am just a small character with a small nose and small eyes. I am young and inexperienced, so it is difficult for me to ascend to such a grand hall. How can I be brothers with the four of you? Yun Yang's expression was cold as he said faintly, the bound of universe's plan to deal with the demon race's apocalypse shall be handed over to the four of you. The four of you are experienced and farsighted. You must have a plan in mind, so I won't embarrass myself in front of you. He was clearly saying that he was unhappy and that he was going to quit. The four rulers were dumbfounded. After a while, Dongfang Haoren said, What are you doing? Yun Yang knows that he's young and inexperienced. He has the heart but not the strength. That's all. Then how do we continue? I'll have to ask you. My only suggestion is that we can consider fighting with our mouths. Your mouths are very sharp and rare in this world. It'll be a waste if we don't use them. Isn't it just a joke? You can't even take a joke at such a young age. Bei Gong Liuli pouted. Yin Yang rolled his eyes. What do you know? Ji Lingxi is already looking for trouble with me. Your joke is equivalent to sending a knife into her hands. Even if she knew that it was nonsense, it would never stop her from using this as a pretext to annoy him again and again. You're all men with wives. Why are you still doing this? Don't you feel guilty? Is this all you've accumulated after tens of thousands of years? Yun Yang was infuriated. After the ruckus, Yun Yang sat down in a sullen manner. How could he not do anything if he said he would? He continued with the discussion. He finally understood that these old fellows were all cowards who bullied the weak and feared the strong. He could not be nice to them. Once he gave them a little, they would take advantage of him. Should we continue to wreak havoc? Dongfang Haoren suggested. The previous operation had been successful. The four men led by him had made a joke out of Yun Yang because they were in a good mood. The consequences were severe and Dongfang Haoren was filled with regret. However, the root of this was not his fault. It was Shimin Fengfu's bad taste that had flared up. It was more important to get down to business. Wreak havoc? It's already very lucky to have succeeded this time. There's no chance of success again. Yin Yang sighed. After this incident, the Phoenix Emperor will definitely increase his guard against the waterway in his fury. If we go there without knowing how to lose with our current combined abilities, we'll be asking for trouble. We'll just be digging our own graves and digging our own graves. Then what should we do? Is there nothing else to do? Although the Apocalypse strategy's progress has been greatly delayed, it's far from being safe. There must be something else, but the only thing we can do now is to wait for a chance and give up on destroying the water surface. Yun Yang's eyes were tinged with a smirk. See if there's any chance to strike at the bottom of the sea. Dongfang Haoren was hesitant. It's easy to fight on land. Although we're in the demon race's territory, we can still unleash our full strength. If we go underwater, especially in the deeper parts of the sea, it'll be difficult for us to use less than 10% of our abilities. If we really start fighting, we'll fall into a terrible state of insufficient spiritual chi. By then it'll be difficult to even maintain internal breathing. We'll need to catch our breaths. How can we achieve anything then? Leave everything related to the underwater to me. Even Lingxi and Lingxiu don't have to go. Yunyang said, all of you will stay hidden above the water surface. If you notice an underwater volcano moving towards the shore, don't act hastily. Just keep an eye on it quietly. Find a chance to pour the seawater into the volcano's mouth. Brilliant! The group clapped and cheered. Indeed, the mountains and peaks near the shore were mostly destroyed. Considering the time limit of the apocalyptic strategy, there was a great chance that the sea race would move the underwater volcanoes to the surface. Not only would they be able to seal the gap, but they would also further advance the strategic plan. Yun Yang's plan was to pour seawater into the volcanoes and perhaps destroy them directly. If it was successful, not only would it create a new gap, it could also reduce the number of volcanoes. I've been destroying the mountains by the shore without a care for the cost during this period of time. My deeper plan has been waiting for this moment. Yun Yang pondered and said, if it's successful, it still won't be able to stop the apocalyptic strategy completely, but the support of this tsunami is destined to be smaller than the demon race's planned scale. Dongfang Haoren and the others nodded silently. Yes, and indeed. Even if the apocalyptic strategy caused the world to collapse, even if the mountain of blood soul collapsed, everyone would still have to fight. On the other side, there were already countless experts of the human race waiting solemnly, not hesitating to fight. With the unity of the human experts, the demon race might not necessarily win if they fought with all their might. However, if the torrential seawater entered the bound of heaven and earth on a large scale, then the advantages and disadvantages of both sides would not be the same. When the turbid waves reached the sky, the sea clan would hide in the waves and assist the demon clan. Wherever it flowed, it would settle down. It was impossible to guard against it, and it was extremely difficult to be discovered. That would be a catastrophe for the human race of the bound of yellow. The Blood Soul Mountain can collapse. You must not enter the sea. Yun Yang uttered each word clearly. Therefore, we must treat the sea race seriously. All right. Understood. Following that, Dongfang Haoren and the others witnessed the full strength of the mysterious yellow cloud. First, he summoned the wind and clouds, dispersing all the clouds in the sky. No matter what the Sea Monarch clan and the Dragon clan did, they could not stop him. As far as the eye could see, there were no clouds in the clear blue sky. As the saying goes, the clouds and the rain are all just a painting. Faced with this situation, the Phoenix Emperor was angered to the point of wanting to vomit blood. Then huge waves surged on the surface of the sea. It was the combination of the wind and water elemental powers, causing huge waves to surge on the surface of the sea. Supreme Cloud is in the sea. Search. Countless experts of the Sea Clan began to get busy. After Yun Yang stirred up the waves on the sea, he saw that the waves had already formed a considerable scale and would not disappear in a short period of time. He immediately dove into the bottom of the sea and brewed a new wave. Chapter 1481. Untitled Chapter of I Am the Supreme Being. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1482. Hurricanes howled in the sky as if there was no end to them. On the surface of the sea, huge waves surged, each higher than the one before. They surged forward, triggering the water in the entire waterway to form a whistling sound. Once a tsunami was formed, even a saint-level cultivator who could move mountains and seas as well as the stars, would have to expend a great deal of effort to quell it. It was not something that could be resolved in a short amount of time. Once, the Phoenix Emperor and the higher-ups of the Demon Race and Sea Clan had envisioned that once the strategy of annihilation was successfully activated, the Bloody Soul Mountain would collapse and the disastrous flood would engulf the bound of universe. The human cultivators would have to face the invasion of the Demon Race and Sea Clan as well as deal with the flood. They did not expect that before the flood disaster could reach the bound of universe and harm the human race, it had already begun to harm the Demon Race. Yun Yang's thoughts were simple and brutal. Don't you want to use the flood and the tsunami to deal with the bound of universe? I'll use the water and the tsunami to deal with you then. The waves surged from afar. Driven by the howling wind, they swiftly formed the eye of the storm, surging tens of thousands of feet into the sky. The immense force contained in the torrent caused countless members of the Sea Clan who were caught in it to be crushed into pieces and sent to the underworld. As the torrent dissipated, The water that retreated was merely brewing the next wave of a more ferocious charge. They came one after another, one after another. In just a short while, the surface of the sea was already littered with the corpses of countless members of the Sea Clan. Faced with such an unprecedented disaster, even the high-level combat power of the Sea Clan who had reached the level of honor and saint would be hard-pressed to escape if they were accidentally drawn into the center of the vortex, let alone the ordinary members of the Sea Clan. The unprecedented massacre also caused the chi of karma that Emmy and Yunyang had been yearning for to surge into their deific consciousness space with a force that was even crazier than the tsunami. It was continuous and endless. If one were to look at it from the surface of the sea, it would be a scene of the end of the world as far as the eye could see. In spite of this, the natural disaster was only the surface. More devastating disasters were coming one after another. At the bottom of the sea, the countless members of the Sea Clan who were busy moving the volcanoes also welcomed a wild undercurrent of hope. At first it was just a small whirlpool in a certain area, but in a very short time, it gradually formed a small whirlpool that rotated at an extremely fast speed. Several patrolling sea race warriors saw this but didn't think much of it. It was too common and they were used to it. His face was filled with curiosity and interest. Look, there's a small whirlpool here. It's spinning pretty fast. It's really fast. I just don't know if bubbles will appear at the bottom if it spins so fast. However, under the watchful eyes of the Sea Clan warriors, the small whirlpool didn't bubble. Instead, it started to spin at a shocking speed. The direct consequence of this situation was that it slowly moved the water around it, and the affected area was also expanding rapidly. In just a few dozen breaths' time, the whirlpool had turned into a tornado that was at least several thousand feet tall and had a diameter of over 100 feet. And this monster that had already taken shape was still growing. The speed of the whirlpool was getting faster and faster. More and more water was moved and the area was expanding little by little. Everything happened too abruptly and unexpectedly. The Sea Tribe warriors who witnessed the huge change and fell into a state of bewilderment did not even have the time to scream. They were directly sucked into the whirlpool and involuntarily spun in it. From start to finish, in less than 10 minutes, the whirlpool had already grown to a thickness of several thousand feet. At this level, the human-made tornado could already move with the help of the growing inertia. It didn't need too much force anymore. This also meant that it was impossible for external forces to stop this tornado. The underwater world also began to show unusual and intense turbulence. The size of the tornado that had expanded to a considerable scale had new movements. It actually began to move. Although it was extremely slow, it was unstoppable. It moved bit by bit at the bottom of the sea, and as its body became thicker and bigger, everywhere it passed, it was not just a mess. Not even a blade of grass grew, and there were no signs of life. There was no doubt that there was grass growing at the bottom of the sea. There were also many small creatures, but they were all destroyed by the sudden appearance of the tornado. Stop it. Stop it with all your strength. A Saint Emperor of the Sea Clan rushed over when he heard the news. His expression changed greatly when he saw the situation. Mobilize people, surround the whirlpool and cast the waves in reverse. Use the whirlpool to counter the whirlpool and use force to eliminate it. It had to be said that the way this Saint Emperor of the Sea Clan dealt with it was quite appropriate under normal circumstances. But this time, countless Sea Clan experts had reacted quickly, but before they could cast their spells, they were sucked into the whirlpool. Countless undersea buildings were affected by the whirlpool one by one, and they collapsed without any chance to resist. Everywhere it passed, the tornado did not seem to stop. Not only did it move faster and faster, but its size also continued to increase. Its speed was at least 10 times faster than before. Facing this sudden change, all the buildings of the Sea Clan that the tornado passed through were destroyed. In the time it took to eat a meal, the area of destruction of the tornado had expanded to thousands of miles. Moreover, the tornado was still moving forward at an extremely fast speed. It was unstoppable. The entire bottom of the sea was filled with turbid waves, so dark that one could not even see their own fingers. Coincidentally, the Sea Race Imperial Palace happened to be in the path of their advance. The tornado was still raging as it forcefully rolled over. At this time, the diameter of the tornado had already exceeded 200,000 feet. A tornado of such a scale could no longer be stopped by human power. Even Yunyang, the one who created this whirlpool, could only guide it along. His own power was not even a fraction of the whirlpool's power. In other words, the tornado had already matured, and it was enough to cause a huge disaster and devastation. Rumble, it was only a momentary stalemate, but the majestic Sea Clan's palace had turned into ruins. Many members of the royal family were sucked into the whirlpool. In this short span of time, tens of millions of souls had perished in this whirlpool. Many experts of the Sea clan were still struggling for their lives in the whirlpool. It was a pity that even Saint Venerables and holy monarchs could only barely protect themselves in this whirlpool, ensuring that they would not die instantly. However, to do something to help others out of danger, that was simply wishful thinking. At this moment, the bottom of the sea was filled with filth and bright red. It was dyed with the blood of countless Sea clan's living beings. The whirlpool continued to expand on its own, its momentum increasing as it spontaneously destroyed everything along its predetermined path. Yunyang hid at the bottom of the sea and watched the scene, thinking, "This should be about time." In the beginning, Yunyang was in the center of the whirlpool, deliberately guiding the whirlpool's rotation and even the direction of the whirlpool. Later on, the whirlpool's power increased exponentially due to its inertia, becoming so strong that even Yunyang dared not stay in the center of the whirlpool. The extreme power of the endless accumulation was terrifying. It was to the extent that Yunyang had turned from the initiator of all this to a mere bystander now, watching everything happen and evolve with cold eyes. The operation this time had exhausted all of his spiritual energy, mystical chi, and the power of the endless divine art. However, it was all worth it. The result was at a level that could shake the entire world. The karma chi, in the form of a tsunami, forcefully poured into his spiritual sense space in an endless stream. How much was it exactly? The chi of karma that could not be seen with the naked eye was too much and too thick for Yunyang's eyes to see it. How much could it possibly be? Emmy remained still, rooted deep in the sea, absorbing the chi of karma that surged in like a whale swallowing the sea. Emmy, who had always been known for its tolerance, felt like it could not bear the burden, even forgetting to cheer out of habit. The most conservative estimate was that it had only been a little more than 2 hours since they had entered the sea. However, the amount of karma chi they had collected was more than what they had collected from the 1st to the 7th level. In fact, it was several times more. What's more, this number was still growing. It continued to grow at an unimaginable and unbelievable speed. "This is bad. Report to His Majesty quickly, ask His Majesty to return and assist." A golden-armored Marine clan expert charged out of the whirlpool with all his might, letting out a shrill cry that tore his throat apart. A mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth as he screamed. It was obvious that he had only managed to escape the whirlpool after expending a large amount of life force. His body swayed as he muttered, "It's over, it's all over, the royal family, it's all over." There was no need to report anymore, Sea Emperor could already see it now. On the surface of the sea, the monstrous waves that Yunyang had created were still roaring, but anyone could tell that it was much calmer than before. However, it was a tree without roots and water without a source. It could no longer stir up any more waves and its lethality had been reduced to the very end. It wasn't much stronger than an ordinary wave. Only the aftershock was left and it looked quite powerful. However, it was at this moment, when the demons and the sea people thought that the waves were about to stop, a whirlpool suddenly appeared somewhere on the surface of the sea. The sudden appearance of the whirlpool did not attract anyone's attention because the waves were still roaring. Even if someone had accidentally seen it, they would not have paid much attention to it. After all, the appearance of a whirlpool on the surface of the sea was all too common. However, the seemingly ordinary whirlpool expanded in the next moment. The center of the whirlpool became 1,000 feet deep in an instant. The abrupt appearance of the whirlpool and its unusual suction force had sucked many of the Sea clan's warriors into it, caught off guard. However, these were the Sea clan's experts, so they had their own ways of dealing with the gravitational force of the whirlpool. All of them managed to escape without any casualties, but everyone was shocked. There was no other reason than the fact that the whirlpool was too terrifying. Since they were the Sea clan's warriors and ace cultivators, they were naturally top-notch experts in controlling water. How could they not know how difficult it was to create such a whirlpool in the sea? Yet, someone had done it and the whirlpool was directed at them. The whirlpool continued to expand, causing the center of the whirlpool to be even deeper. It looked like the eye of a devil, incomparably deep, devouring everything in its path. What's going on? Sea Emperor stared angrily at the sudden appearance of the whirlpool, but deep in his eyes was a thick sense of dread. The whirlpool had obviously risen from the bottom of the sea. However, creating such a huge whirlpool from the bottom of the sea was not something that could be done by humans. Even if it was the Sea Emperor himself, if he wanted to do the same, he would need to prepare for a considerable period of time. Exhausting all of his energy would not be enough, and he would probably need to expend a certain amount of his original strength to succeed. Thinking deeper, this was a whirlpool that had rushed from the bottom of the sea to the surface of the sea. It was so huge and it was still expanding. It was simply terrifying. The more he thought about it, the more horrified the Sea Emperor became. He did not dare to imagine the situation at the bottom of the sea. Suddenly, the Sea Emperor roared, and a shining yellow rod appeared in his hand. The moment this rod appeared, a golden light shot up to the sky. The entire demon realm was illuminated by this golden light, and the whole world was filled with brilliant yellow light. Even the bound of universe could see the sudden dazzling golden light in the sky, as if the sun had descended on the world. At this moment, countless humans, Sea Clan and Demon Clan held their breaths. They all turned to look at the other side of the golden light. The Phoenix Emperor, who was soaring in the sky, suddenly stopped and turned his head to look at the dazzling golden rod in the Sea Emperor's hand. His eyes suddenly shot out an inexplicable light, and he murmured emotionally, "Sea-suppressing divine staff. I should have guessed it. This sea-suppressing divine staff is in your hands." The Phoenix Emperor took a deep breath and suddenly shouted, "Sovereign of the seas, hand over the sea-suppressing divine staff." Hand it over? The Sea Emperor was furious. Why? He held the sea-suppressing divine staff in both hands, but it was as if he was bearing an endless weight of a mountain. Even with the Sea Emperor's cultivation and strength, it was still very strenuous, as if the weight of the sea-suppressing divine staff had exceeded the limits of what he could bear. The golden light on the sea-suppressing divine staff became more and more intense, illuminating the entire universe. As if he had accumulated enough energy, the Sea Emperor stabbed the sea-suppressing divine staff into the water, right into the center of the giant whirlpool. He turned to hold the staff with one hand and stood steadily on the surface of the sea, looking like a deep pool of water. The boundless yellow light of the sea-suppressing divine staff shrank abruptly and spread out from the surface of the sea, covering the entire surface of the sea in an instant. Then it was calm again. From the moment the sea-suppressing divine staff was plunged into the water, all movements from the surface of the sea to the bottom of the sea disappeared. The surface of the sea returned to being as calm as a mirror, without a single ripple. The sea-suppressing divine staff lived up to its name of suppressing the sea. Its power was exactly the same. Yun Yang had expended his cultivation base to multiply the power of a peerless expert, complemented by the power of wind and water, and accumulated for a long time before he could create the tornado. It should have been unstoppable, but unexpectedly, it was wiped out by the sea-suppressing divine staff in an instant. From the surface of the sea to the bottom of the sea, there was not a single ripple. All the members of the demon race and Sea Clan who witnessed this scene with their own eyes were dumbfounded and speechless for a long time. Finally, with a soft swoosh, the Phoenix Sovereign came before the Sea Emperor and said sternly, "Hand over the sea-suppressing divine staff." The Sea Emperor was furious. "How dare you? This sea-suppressing divine staff is the treasure of the Sea Clan's heritage. What reason do you have to snatch it?" The Phoenix Sovereign was furious. "The treasure of the Sea Clan's heritage? Nonsense. You're making things up. This staff is obviously the treasure of my demon race's patriarch. Back then, my demon race's patriarch shook the world with one strike, using his own power to assist the monarch. That's how he was able to make a pact with the founder of the Bound of Universe, in exchange for the vast land of the demon realm. For the sake of the demon race's survival, the patriarch didn't take the sea-suppressing divine staff with him when he transcended this world. Instead, he left it in the demon realm to guard the fate of our race. At that time, the insignificant sea race would be nothing more than loaches. How dare you talk about heritage and occupy the demon race's ancestral treasure?" The Phoenix Sovereign's eyes were spitting fire. "Hurry up and hand it over. This is the treasure of our demon race to guard the fate of our race." The Sea Emperor's expression was calm. The demon race is the common race of the demon race. Not only is it the ancestor of the Earth demon race, it is also the ancestor of our Sea Clan. Could it be that the Phoenix Sovereign is denying that our Sea Clan is not a part of the demon race? It's true that the patriarch left the sea-suppressing divine staff to guard the fate of the demon race, but there's a deeper meaning in leaving it in the sea. What's the reason why your Sea Clan rarely has any abnormal fluctuations for billions of years? It's because of this sea-suppressing divine staff that suppresses all abnormal changes in the sea. After billions of years of inheritance, this sea-suppressing divine staff naturally belongs to our Sea Clan. Just because of your words, the demon race actually wants to snatch it away. Phoenix Sovereign, your wishful thinking is really good. The Phoenix Sovereign was even more furious. You're twisting words and forcing logic. After the war 150,000 years ago, Your Sea clan had already become independent and no longer belonged to the Demon clan. In the war that year, the ancestors of the Sea clan who had shed all their blood were still sleeping on the continent of the Demon realm. The resolute words of that year were still ringing in my ears. From then on, your Sea clan is no longer under the jurisdiction of the Demon race on land. The Sea clan will no longer be a Demon race. Is this something I'm making up? Now you want to call yourself a part of the Demon race? Whose wishful thinking is it? The Phoenix Sovereign was furious. Alright, since you call yourself a part of the Demon race, then naturally you'll be under the jurisdiction of the Demon Emperor. As a subject, what right do you have to keep the Sea suppressing divine staff? Hand it over. The Sea Emperor was furious. Impossible, dream on. The Demon race sage and Sea clan sage gathered around. Looking at the Sea suppressing divine staff, every demon's eyes were filled with passion. Especially the Demon race sage, his gaze was as if he wanted to swallow the Sea suppressing divine staff. The demon ancestor's holy item. The Demon race and the Sea clan, who had been working closely together, suddenly became tense because of this divine artifact. Even the Rock Emperor, Eagle Emperor, and the others on the distant mountaintops gave up their respective guards and hurried over. The Sea suppressing divine staff was actually so important. Therefore all the mountaintops were actually unguarded and empty. It was a pity that Dongfang Haoran and the others did not know about this. Otherwise, if they took this opportunity to wreak havoc, there was a great chance that they could completely eliminate the threat of the tsunami attack. Yun Yang, who was at the bottom of the sea, was initially watching from the sidelines happily while recovering his exhausted energy. He was in an unusually good mood now. Looking at the torrent-like chi of karma flowing into his deific consciousness space endlessly, it had only been less than 2 hours and the amount of chi of karma needed to advance to the 8th level was almost sufficient. One must know that to complete the cultivation of the 8th level would require a total of 1 billion chi of karma. It had been accumulating for a long time, but it had only accumulated to 1/3 of the amount, Yun Yang judged optimistically. With the chi of karma that was still pouring in, there would still be a lot left after the chi of karma that was required for the 8th level was replenished. After all, this was only an income of 2 hours. Yun Yang was grinning from ear to ear, still looking forward to greater destruction and more gain so that he could improve further. Unexpectedly, an unforeseen event occurred. An inexplicable, irresistible force came crashing down from the surface of the sea. Wherever the golden light passed, not only did it cause the entire seabed to shine brilliantly, it even caused all the fluctuations to disappear without a trace. Even the endless filth that had been stirred up at the bottom of the sea had disappeared in an instant. At this moment, the entire sea was like a huge piece of transparent jade, sparkling and translucent. It was clear and green as far as the eye could see. It was as if the apocalyptic storm that had been wreaking havoc just now had never existed. In spite of this, the Sea clan's palace that had been turned into ruins and the many buildings that had been destroyed along the way were a clear indication that the apocalyptic storm was not non-existent. It was real. In addition, there were tens of millions of corpses of the Sea clan that were floating up from the calm seawater. It was a testament to the terror that had just occurred. In spite of this, the shock that Yun Yang felt was indescribable. The tornado just now had clearly taken shape. It was not something that could be shaken by a human. Even if he, the initiator of the tornado, used all his strength and unleashed the power of the 2 elements of wind and water, or even unleashed all the power of the other elements, he would not be able to stop that destructive power. What kind of power was it to be able to stop such a terrifying disaster, and in an instant to vanquish it all? He stared at the calm with wide eyes, almost biting his tongue. What was going on? How could this be? Yun Yang wanted to go to the surface of the sea to see what was going on, but he had expended too much of his energy just now. His energy was completely drained and he was almost at the end of his tether. The only thing he could do was to turn into a small water droplet and hide in the sea, drifting with the waves and slowly recovering. In his current state, he might not even be able to make it to the surface of the sea even if he spent a whole day. However, this was still too ridiculous. Yun Yang had never thought that there would be such a terrifying power in this world. The sea that had been raging had actually calmed down in the blink of an eye, returning to a state of tranquility. Even if it was a basin of water, the most an expert could do was to freeze the entire basin of water after it had been stirred up, but the rippling shape would still be retained. It was impossible for it to instantly return to a state where there was not even a ripple. Now, however, the entire sea had truly returned to a state of stagnant water. This was simply a miracle. Absolutely unbelievable. Yun Yang could not understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. At this moment, A war between two races was brewing on the surface of the sea. The opposing parties were the elite experts of the Sea Clan and the Demon Clan. A single word of disagreement would lead to a direct confrontation. There would be no room for negotiation. The Demon Clan and the Sea Clan stood in a stalemate, unwilling to give in. The atmosphere was heated, almost like an arrow on the bowstring, ready to explode at any moment. Sea Emperor held the oceanic suppressing staff with one hand and closed his eyes to cultivate. In a split second, the oceanic suppressing staff disappeared with a soft swoosh. The dazzling golden radiance that shone upon the world disappeared at once as well. Everyone in the bound of universe who had witnessed the dazzling golden radiance felt a sense of loss. The rage in the Phoenix Emperor's eyes burned even hotter. The red radiance intensified and the flames rose. The Phoenix Emperor was already in front of Sea Emperor. They were only inches apart as a calm but chilling voice rang out, "Hand it over. Give it to me." Sea Emperor narrowed his eyes and said faintly, "Phoenix Emperor, do you know that one strike from the oceanic suppressing staff is enough to kill you on the spot with no hope of reprieve?" The Phoenix Emperor was completely unfazed by Sea Emperor's threat. He said coldly, "Give it to me." The Ocean Emperor's seemingly calm face slowly revealed a trace of malevolence. Under the Phoenix Emperor's calm face, a volcano that could erupt at any time was brewing. The two emperors looked at each other silently. After a while, everyone present knew that it was not that these two were not moving. They had already decided to go to extremes. They only needed an opportunity and the war between the two races would erupt in an instant. "Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor." Prime Minister Turtle came forward humbly with his back hunched. He said, "Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor is wise. How can you not know that the bigger picture is more important? What's more important in the current situation? Who's the leader?" There's no need for this old man to elaborate. This is a crucial period that concerns the rise and fall of the Demon Clan. Why do you have to be impulsive and lose sight of the bigger picture because of a moment of impulsiveness? The Phoenix Emperor was not moved at all. He continued to stare at the Sea Emperor fiercely. Prime Minister Turtle still had a sincere and well-meaning expression on his face as he sincerely said, Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor. Even if there's a disagreement, we can still discuss it. We can discuss it at length in the future. The first priority now is to conquer the bound of universe. Everything else should give way to this first priority. After conquering the bound of universe, it won't be too late for us to discuss what will happen in the future. This old man still feels that, at that time, even if it's difficult to satisfy both sides, it's just a fight between our own people behind closed doors. However, if Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor insists on making a decision on this matter now, it will only benefit the human clan for no reason. It's not appropriate. The Sea Emperor looked coldly at the Phoenix Emperor and said, There's nothing inappropriate about the timing. As long as Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor feels that it's appropriate, it's fine. I feel that this moment is the best time to resolve this matter. The Phoenix Emperor said coldly, Sea Emperor, no matter when, this sea-suppressing divine staff is the demon ancestor's sacred artifact. Even if you forcefully keep it in your hands, can you really carry it? The Sea Emperor sneered. Whether I can carry it or not is my business. There's no need for Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor to worry about it. Emperor Rock and Eagle Emperor looked fiercely at the Sea Emperor and said sternly, Sea Emperor, the sea-suppressing divine staff should be enshrined in the Demon Clan's sacred altar. It can't be touched unless it's for the Demon Clan. Why are you keeping it in your body now? Hurry up and take it out. Don't desecrate the demon ancestor's sacred artifact anymore. The Sea Emperor sneered and completely ignored Emperor Rock and Eagle Emperor's censure. He said, Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor, the one who advocated for cooperation was your demon court. Now that there's internal strife, it's also your demon court. The sea-suppressing divine staff is the Demon Clan's sacred artifact. This will never change. No matter where it lands, as long as it's still in the hands of the Demon Clan and not the human clan, it's enough, isn't it? The Phoenix Emperor narrowed his eyes and said, Answer my two brothers' questions first. They are also the leaders of the Demon Clan, so they naturally have the right to speak about the divine staff's whereabouts. The Sea Emperor said quietly, I've heard that the Phoenix Emperor is bold and wise. When we first met, I felt that the rumors were true. Why are you so angry now? I've already made preparations for the 10 billion Sea Clan living beings. If both sides still want to continue cooperating, please show your goodwill and sincerity, Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor. If the Phoenix Emperor wishes to cancel the cooperation, then it's up to you to decide whether everyone will live in peace or fight. He sneered and said, As for your two brothers, They don't have the right to speak to me on equal terms. I'll wait for your reply. Excuse me. After saying that, without waiting for the Phoenix Emperor's response, he flipped over and submerged into the seawater, disappearing without a trace. Eagle Emperor and Emperor Rock trembled in anger. What? You're just a stinky loach. Do you think you're so great? The Crane Emperor turned to the Phoenix Emperor. Brother Phoenix, that sea-suppressing divine staff, is the Sea Emperor holding it? The Phoenix Emperor sighed softly and looked at the Turtle Prime Minister, who was bowing to him again and again. He said gently, Prime Minister, go back for now. Don't worry. Just as you said, the overall situation is more important. The Turtle Prime Minister said humbly, Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor is very thoughtful. I'm impressed. As he spoke, he turned around and entered the seawater. The Phoenix Emperor looked at the waves on the sea with a solemn gaze. He knew that this Turtle Prime Minister seemed timid on the surface, but in reality he was a high-level sage. He was not weaker than Emperor Rock or Emperor Eagle. He was a rare peak expert of the Sea Clan. His defense was especially strong and he was extremely difficult to deal with. He was a formidable opponent. The Phoenix Emperor soared into the sky. The Eagle Emperor, the Rock Emperor, and the others all followed, looking at the Phoenix Emperor. The excitement of these demon race emperors after seeing the sea-suppressing divine scepter still hadn't dissipated. All of them looked at the Phoenix Emperor anxiously, waiting for her response. Now that the situation is against us, we can't get the divine staff back for the time being. When I see the Demon Emperor, I will explain it to him. Sigh, this time if the Demon Emperor is here, there's hope. After all, he's the king elected by all the races. He has a natural reason to control the sea-suppressing divine staff. However, I'm not here in a legitimate position. Instead, I'll be vile. After all, I'm only the Phoenix Emperor, the Emperor of the Phoenix race, not the leader of the demons. I advocated for the sea-suppressing divine staff just now out of righteous indignation. The Sea Monarch doesn't recognize me, so it's not wrong. The Phoenix Emperor sighed. Even if I really snatch it back, so what? Such a divine item is in my hands. I'm not even sure if I can bear to hand it over. If the Demon Emperor is afraid. The Phoenix Emperor smiled bitterly. Therefore, if we can't get the divine staff back today, there will be no conflict. The reason why we speak so harshly is just to show the attitude of the demons. If we really start a war, it's impossible. I believe the Sea Monarch is only fearless because he sees this. When the Phoenix Emperor finished speaking, he looked up to the sky and sighed. The Rock Emperor and the others were speechless. Yes, the sea-suppressing divine staff was the top divine weapon in this world. Who wouldn't want it? Once it fell into their hands, how could they bear to hand it over? One must know that as long as the person who wielded the sea-suppressing divine staff had a certain level of ability, he could easily kill other sovereigns with the staff's power, including an elite like the Phoenix Emperor. Whether it was the Eagle Emperor, the Rock Emperor, the Crane Emperor, or any other sovereign who obtained this divine weapon, they could cause great internal strife among the demons. Only the Demon Emperor would be a weapon that could intimidate the world. Go back. Look after our mountain. The Phoenix Emperor lowered his gaze and smiled coldly. Looks like the Sea Clan has suffered heavy losses this time. This Heaven and Earth Supreme Cloud obviously saw that the waterway was damaged and shifted his attention to the bottom of the sea. The Rock Emperor gloated and said, if that Supreme Cloud did something a few more times down there would be a lot of fun to watch. Now, I'm angry every time I see the Sea Clan's arrogance. The sovereigns stood in the air, their eyes fixed on the surface of the sea. The surface of the sea within tens of thousands of miles was occupied by the Sea Clan corpses that floated up one after another. Among them there were huge fish that were thousands of feet long, pythons and octopuses. As for the small fish and shrimp, there were countless of them densely packed together. If we include the small fish, this Heaven and Earth Supreme Cloud has destroyed enough Sea Clan corpses to last time's world annihilation strategy. Perhaps even more. The Eagle Emperor had a look of schadenfreude on his face as he grinned. Brother Peng is right. If we really do it a few more times, just thinking about the ugly expression on the Ocean Emperor's face is already very satisfying. Haha. The Sea Emperor split the waterway and returned to the Sea Palace. When he saw the state of the palace, he was furious. Who did this? The originally resplendent and luxurious Sea Monarch Palace was now reduced to ruins. It was desolate. All Shaochen could see were countless royal warriors going in and out of the ruins, dragging out corpses one after another. The Sea Emperor took a closer look and was shocked to find that the majority of the corpses belonged to the royal family. He could not help feeling dizzy. Other than his concubines who were almost all dead, most of his descendants were dead as well. Even the Empress was in a coma. The Empress was not in a coma because of injury, but because she was overwhelmed with grief. Of the 7 sons she had with the Sea Emperor, 5 had died in this incident. A total of 5. The Sea Race's crown prince was also gravely injured in the chaos and was on the verge of death. Search for the heaven and earth supreme cloud. I want to tear him into pieces. The Sea Emperor could not react in time. When he recalled the scene of Supreme Cloud controlling the water to attack the Phoenix Emperor, how could he not know who the culprit was? His teeth chattered as he gnashed his teeth in hatred. Supreme Cloud. Supreme Cloud. I'll tear you into pieces and grind your bones into ashes. The Sea Emperor roared at the sky, feeling as if his organs were about to explode from anger. Yun Yang was still in the form of a water droplet, but he witnessed the tragedy in the Sea Emperor's palace up close. For a moment he felt a sense of satisfaction. He suddenly realized that the Sea Clan seemed to be much easier to deal with than the land demons. The land demons had a vast territory. Even if he wanted to, he might not be able to find them. On the other hand, the Sea Clan was even more vast than the realm of demons. However, they were in the ocean, and with their water manifestation power, they were an undefeatable existence. The ocean in particular had a special characteristic. As long as the seawater on one side was stirred up, the seawater on the other side would naturally be stirred up as well. It would be great if I could do this once a day. Yun Yang's imagination ran wild. In spite of it, the difficulty was too great. Putting everything else aside, the tornado that he had created this time had exhausted all of his strength. He would need at least 2 days to fully recover. What was it that the Sea Clan used to calm the seawater? Was it a secret art or a race's innate power? That power was too great. It was almost a complete counter to his water aspect and even other aspect techniques. Yun Yang knew very well that he might not be able to withstand such a mystical technique once it discovered his existence and came charging at him. This was a huge risk, and it definitely couldn't be taken lightly, let alone tried rashly. Still, I can't give up. I have to figure out the cause as best as I can. Yun Yang felt that he had recovered 20 to 30% of his energy and immediately floated over silently. Emi was fully focused on digesting the sudden surge of karmic chi. It could not be of much help, so Yun Yang's actions were naturally more cautious. Fox Emperor City. Dongfang Haoran and Shimen Fanfu looked grim. Is that the legendary divine staff of ocean? It should be. Beigong Liuli's face was grim. Once the golden light dispersed, the sea calmed down immediately. It's impossible to do that without the divine staff of ocean. The divine staff of ocean has reappeared. This means, the 4 rulers looked grim. It was a divine item that could destroy half of the continent with a single strike. When Yun Yang comes back, we have to discuss this in detail. The situation is getting worse. Chapter 1483. Yun Yang's return this time took a long time. The effect of the divine staff of ocean suppressing staff was not only to turn the seawater into a calm lake but also to suppress the influence of all forces on the surface of the sea. The effect was still there. Even when Yun Yang used his water manifestation power and turned into a water droplet that was no different from the ocean, he could only float up bit by bit and could not float to the surface all at once. However, this was only because Yun Yang's water manifestation power was extraordinary. If he were to act rashly within the range of the ocean suppressing divine staff's power, he would have already brought disaster upon himself and killed himself. Yun Yang slowly floated up from the bottom of the sea in the form of a small water droplet. It took him 2 whole days before he returned to the surface. Once he was out of the range of the seawater, Yun Yang could not wait to turn into the wind and cloud, only heaving a long sigh of relief when he was high up in the sky. The uncomfortable feeling of being controlled and sticky all over finally disappeared completely. It had been a long time since Yun Yang had been in a situation where his life and death were not in his control. The divine staff of ocean suppressing staff had given Yun Yang this feeling that he had not felt for a long time. It was only a strike, but it was already deeply rooted in Yun Yang's heart and could not be erased. Yun Yang was certain that the oceanic suppressing staff's level was definitely higher than the purple jade flute's by more than a level and above his divine edge. Although the divine edge's future was promising, it could not withstand a strike from this staff at the moment. Perhaps when his endless divine art advanced to the next level, it would be possible for the Blade of Heavens will to have a stronger foundation to fight against the divine staff. As Yun Yang pondered, he suddenly realized that it had been a long time since he had made his move. It was more important for him to go back and inform everyone about the current situation. Yun-yang made up his mind and sped towards Fox Emperor City like the wind and cloud. The divine staff of ocean-suppressing staff? Yun-yang's eyes shone brightly after listening to Dongfang Haoran's description of the staff. He did not even say a few words before he sped away, leaving only one sentence: "I'm going out again." Before his words echoed in the air, someone had turned into the wind and cloud again. Then he quickly flew back to the sea but did not enter the sea. After all, it was unknown if the sea-suppressing divine staff's power was still in the sea. In a flash, Yun-yang had already arrived at a more secluded spot by the coast. He watched Emperor Rock and the other demonic sovereigns who were stationed on the mountaintop. Yun-yang watched for a long time before slowly rising into the sky and standing above the clouds again. He had gone through so much trouble to change his location repeatedly, but he was cautious. The demonic race must be on high alert at every corner, in the air and on the ground. Yun-yang had come with a purpose, so of course he had to ensure his absolute concealment. Yun-yang turned into the wind and cloud again, spreading his deific consciousness in the tiniest of ways. His movements were extremely careful, and he didn't dare to spread his spiritual energy over a large area. Instead, he used a faintly discernible spiritual energy to monitor the situation below. Emperor Rock and the others were not weaklings. Once he was discovered, Yun-yang would have to face another tough battle. Yun-yang was not afraid of a tough battle, but fighting it out now would not help the overall situation. The key was to see through the other party's weakness. Below, Eagle Emperor and Rock Emperor were communicating through voice transmission. After a while, Tiger Emperor and Eagle Emperor joined in the conversation. The sea-suppressing divine staff must get it back. It can't be left in the sea race. There's no such thing. Brother Phoenix must be anxiously planning this now. It's just that the issue of status isn't easy to solve. That's true. Sighed Brother Eagle. If you get it, will you hand it over to the Demon Emperor? Emperor Rock suddenly recalled what the Phoenix Emperor had said. Even if he got it, he might not be willing to hand it over. Eagle Emperor did not speak and only snorted. What about you? Heh. Tiger Emperor's answer was the most honest. If it were 10,000 years ago, I probably wouldn't hesitate and would hand it over immediately. What's mine is my brother's and vice versa. If it were 10 days ago, I would still consider handing it over for the sake of the so-called big picture. But now, Tiger Emperor shook his head and sighed. All the martial emperors clearly understood the meaning of this sentence, and it even spoke out the thoughts of everyone present. 10,000 years ago, Cat Ancestor's matter had happened. 10 days ago, Fox Emperor and Cat Ancestor had perished in battle under their watch. And these two matters were related to the Demon Emperor. All the emperors fell silent. After a long time, Emperor Rock sighed deeply. Standing on the mountaintop and looking at the surging waves below, he muttered, I suddenly feel that everything is so meaningless. So meaningless. The brothers all laughed coldly. It's just for the survival of the billions of people under me? If it's just me? So what if I'm a Demon Emperor? Tiger Emperor spoke again. His words could be said to be crazy. If we treat him as a brother, he's a Demon Emperor. If he doesn't treat us as brothers, he's nothing. More importantly, the Tiger Emperor didn't use telepathy to say this. Instead, he said it out loud. Silence. Be careful with your words. Emperor Rock's eyes widened as he said angrily, How can you say such words so casually? Tiger Emperor's rough face was filled with disapproval. What's there to be careful about? If I suddenly die one day or if the brothers present suddenly die, I won't be able to find someone to talk to even if I want to. The few emperors sighed. The Phoenix Emperor has gone to inform the Demon Emperor. There will definitely be an explanation for the whereabouts of the sea-suppressing divine staff, Eagle Emperor consoled. Let's wait a while. It would have been fine if he hadn't said that. The moment he said that, the few emperors suddenly felt like they were about to explode. The Phoenix Emperor and Long Yutian have always been on the same side. Everything is decided by the two of them. When have we brothers ever participated in the discussion? They have always informed us only after making a decision. Damn it. They say we are brothers but we are allies. What are we in their eyes? We are just hired thugs. Leopard Emperor spat fiercely. I've cultivated for more than 100,000 years. My words carry weight in my race. Yet I'm just a hired thug for the two of them? How F*** King aggrieved. The more I think about it, the more I feel like I don't want to do anything. Everything is for the great cause of the demon race, for the survival of thousands of years. Rock Emperor said in a low voice. Tiger Emperor scoffed. The great cause of the demon race? Let me ask you, even if the bound of universe is really conquered, who has the final say? Who will sit on the throne of the bound of universe? As soon as this question was asked, all the sovereigns present fell silent. Who has the final say? Who will sit on the throne of the bound of universe? There was no need for an answer to this question. At the very least, it won't be me. Yun Yang had already eavesdropped most of the emperor's conversation. Through some of his imagination, Yun Yang quickly came to the current situation of the demon race's internal instability. His eyes could not help but sparkle as his imagination ran wild. Yun Yang calculated inwardly. If he were to wreak havoc again and succeed, other than delaying the progress of the strategy of annihilation, it might also further aggravate the knot between the emperors and the demonic Phoenix Emperor. It was impossible for the demonic Phoenix Emperor and the demonic Phoenix Emperor to not pursue the repeated failures of the Emperor's defense. Yun Yang observed his surroundings carefully again and again. The demon race had put in a lot of effort in this defense. There were at least 100 experts from the eagle, rock, tiger, leopard, eagle and crane races stationed in these few mountains. There were also 6 pinnacle emperors who could come to the rescue at once. Yun Yang wisely chose not to wreak havoc but chose to quietly dive into the sea. Since it was difficult to wreak havoc, it was better to look for another direction. Just now, Yun Yang was surprised to find that his divine sense was no longer as sluggish as before. This meant that the oceanic suppressing staff's power was diminishing. At the same time, it also meant that he might have something to do. The oceanic suppressing staff is the focus of the current disagreement between the demon race and the sea race. It's still necessary to broaden my horizons. In fact, when Yun Yang heard Dongfang Haoren's introduction of the staff, he already had a clear plan in his heart. However, he was afraid that he would overthink it. If it was not what he thought, it would be a waste of effort and be futile. Not only was the demon race short of time now, they were even more so. Now that he had overheard the conversation between Emperor Peng and the others, he finally made up his mind. The oceanic suppressing staff is another direction that can disrupt the cooperation between the demon race and the sea race. Coincidentally, the power released by the oceanic suppressing staff was gradually diminishing, so Yun Yang dived into the sea without hesitation. The dive was very successful. It did not take long for him to reach 30,000 feet under the sea and once again come into contact with the Sea Palace's barrier. This was a completely transparent barrier. Outside, one could only see the endless sea. Only by breaking through the barrier could one see the real living circle of the Sea Palace and the sea race's higher-ups. Originally, this sealing barrier had been destroyed by the whirlpool tornado, but with the return of the Sea King with the power of the divine staff, he instantly rebuilt the barrier. This sealing barrier was a type of sorcery. As long as there was enough Yuan Gong magic power, it was not difficult to rebuild it. Moreover, the Sea King had the divine staff as a supplement, so rebuilding it was even easier. This was the second time Yun Yang had come into contact with the barrier. He followed the previous method and transformed into a member of the sea race with ease, blending in. The situation inside the barrier was just as Yun Yang had guessed. The consequences of the last time he had come to cause trouble had not been cleaned up. It was a complete mess, with members of the sea race who were busy clearing the trash and cleaning the place. Huh? What was that? Yun Yang's eyes widened. He was surprised to see a group of members of the sea race carrying boxes and moving in a certain direction. The items in the boxes were all cores. A box of the sea race's cores. No, it was many boxes of the sea race's cores. Don't panic, everyone. This is the last plot. Of course, it's the quickest way to start the final battle, but without the foreshadowing process, it's unpleasant to watch. Chapter 1484. At that moment Yun Yang's breathing grew heavier. Although there did not seem to be any high-level items, there were too many of them. There were simply too many of them. Yun Yang understood it immediately. These were the sea clansmen who had died because of the disturbance he had caused previously. The tornado had been too powerful and its lethality had exceeded his estimation. Even he had been in danger, but the oceanic divine staff had calmed the waves and frightened him at the same time. How could he have had the time to collect the cores? This had caused the cores of these demons to remain in their bodies after they had died. Had these been dug out and stored together by the demons when they were collecting the corpses? Recycling. Yun Yang's eyes flickered. You use the trash, I'll use the trash then. You don't need them anyway. It's a coincidence, why not let me have them? Then he quietly attacked and killed a guy who looked like a whale general of the sea race with one blow. He put him into his divine sense space. Then he shook his body and changed back to his original appearance. He held a huge box and followed the team in front of him. There were a lot of people cleaning the place, so naturally there were no high-level experts around. Yun Yang's actions were swift this time, and he had done it in his invisible state. Everything was done without a sound, so naturally no one noticed anything amiss. Since it was a centralized storage, there must be a storeroom for these items. Yun Yang had been longing to find this storeroom. This was all wealth and resources. Moreover, since it was a storeroom to store resources, there must have been more in the past other than these this time. The amount of resources inside would be unimaginable. Thinking about it, Yun Yang was drooling. This was probably God's blessing for the kind-hearted. I'm a character who's dedicated to eliminating the hidden threat to the bound of universe's human race. Of course I'm a kind-hearted person, of course I should be blessed by God. The wealth of the Sea clan is mine, of course. Not long after, an underground palace could be seen in front of them. The Sea clan warriors filed in with the boxes. The guards at the door did not even check them as they walked in unhindered. After passing through 3 sentries, Yun Yang finally entered one of the storerooms. Yes, it was one of the storerooms. There was not only one storeroom in this crypt, there were so many of them that it was unimaginable, and these storerooms were all connected. Yun Yang felt his heart palpitate, his vision blurry. The huge warehouse with a circumference of no less than 10,000 feet was only the outermost area. It was filled with all kinds of jewels, pearls, corals, and so on. Although it was only wealth in the eyes of the common people, this amount was pretty good. The one further in was filled with all sorts of resources and treasures of the sea. There were some that Yun Yang recognized, but there were even more that he did not. It was a dazzling array of items. Then, the next one was an even higher grade heavenly treasure. Further inside was where the inner cores were stored. There were a total of 3 large warehouses. The outermost warehouse of the 3 was obviously used to store these low-level inner cores, which were piled up like a mountain. When the team transporting the inner cores arrived here, they naturally stopped. They carefully stacked up the boxes one by one before leaving as quickly as possible. It was impossible for Yun Yang to go out as well. To him, coming into contact with such a treasure vault was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise, but he, who was said to be able to pluck the feathers of a swallow as he passed by, how could he return empty-handed after entering a treasure mountain? How could he not sweep it clean? If he were to return empty-handed, would he still be the raiders of the black and white ruthless duo? Therefore, once he entered the warehouse, he immediately turned into his wind manifestation and blended into the air. He went straight into the innermost small warehouse. It was obvious that the innermost warehouse was where the highest grade of inner cores were stored. Just as Yun Yang had expected, there were not many boxes in this warehouse, but it still made Yun Yang's eyes turn green. Although it was not a lot, it was only when compared to the huge number outside. There were at least tens of thousands of high-level inner cores here. After all, this was the stock of the Sea clan over countless years. They were all Saint Lord and Saint Venerate level inner cores. As for those above Saint Lord level, Yun Yang did not find them. They were probably not here. After all, the higher level inner cores belonged to the pinnacle of this world. Not only could there not be a lot of them, it was even more impossible for them to be stored like this. Yun Yang, who was eager to hunt, was not going to hold back. With a wave of his hand, the entire warehouse was swept clean. He then entered the second warehouse and similarly waved his hand. The third warehouse was actually used to store weapons. Needless to say, he also waved his hand. The Heaven and Earth Treasure Warehouse, with a wave of his hand. All the way to the outermost area, there were tens of millions of mid-level inner cores. Needless to say, he still waved his hand. As for the remaining ones or those that were about to be transported in, this brother doesn't want them. I don't care. One should not be too overboard. One should leave some leeway so that they can meet again in the future. Look at how honest I am. In total, Yun Yang had ransacked all 7 of the Sea clan's warehouses. Only then did he transform into a large prawn with his sleeves fluttering in the wind and skipped away. A certain someone was still thinking, how can the Sea clan, which has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years, only have such a small amount of wealth? There should be other secret warehouses. Why don't they arrange and handle them together? It'll be easier to manage. Humans were always afraid of being discontented. Within a certain someone's deific consciousness, the Sea clan's treasures alone had piled up to a dozen mountains. They were real mountains too, but he was still not satisfied. Not long after, another team of Sea clan warriors who were transporting the inner cores carried boxes into the warehouse. Once they entered, however, the leaders were stunned. Did I go the wrong way? What was the meaning of this empty warehouse? Turning his head, he saw that his companions behind him were all dumbfounded. What was going on? The Sea clan's lack of vigilance was not to be blamed. The warehouse was located in the deepest part of the ocean. It was located in a secluded location and had not been robbed for hundreds of thousands of years. It was because of this that the guards of the warehouse had been replaced with the lowest cultivation base, warriors who had just been able to shapeshift, who would come to the bottom of the ocean to steal. This didn't make any sense at all. It was impossible. Now, however, this impossible and inexplicable thing had happened right before their eyes, and it was a complete robbery. The entire warehouse had been emptied. The boxes in the hands of a team of warriors fell to the ground, their mouths agape like hippopotamuses. After a long while, a warrior came back to his senses and suddenly rushed forward, quickly rushing to the other storehouses. This inexplicable action caused the guards of the other storehouses to be shocked. Was this grandson crazy? Yes, the warrior really felt like he was going to go crazy. He turned around and ran, shouting as he ran, "This is bad!" Heart-wrenching cries rang incessantly. The guards at the door, who did not know what was happening inside, were still chatting leisurely when they heard the shrill alarm ringing inside. They could not help being dumbfounded. "Fire? The warehouse has been robbed. Report to His Majesty quickly. Someone come quickly." In short, chaos ensued. However, after the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the sea race powerhouses flew over from all directions. In the blink of an eye, there was a sentry every few steps, and it was heavily guarded. It was completely different from before. At this moment, Yun Yang had already arrived at the Ocean Palace. He had turned into the wind and was drifting back and forth in the air, wandering freely. The master of the palace, Sea Sovereign, was furious. Of course, he was not enraged because the warehouse had been robbed. He did not know about it yet. The main reason for his rage was the destruction of the palace and the heavy casualties of the royal family. Supreme Cloud of Universe. Very well. I'll remember you. This vengeance, this hatred is irreconcilable. I've told them to cultivate diligently, cultivate diligently. What about it? All of them didn't strive for progress. It's all your fault for spoiling them. Look at them now, they're all dead, all dead. If they'd worked a little harder, would they have ended up like this today? Look at them, their cultivation base is at the level of Saint Lord and Saint Venerable. At most they'll be slightly injured. Look at the good sons and daughters you've raised. How old are they? They've lost their lives in this whirlpool. Aren't you ashamed? Aren't you ashamed? Still crying? Why are you crying? Stop King howling. I don't want to take revenge. Even if I'm made of clay, I'm still a country bumpkin. The problem now is, revenge takes time, doesn't it? Do you think you can cry Supreme Cloud to death by crying here? I have to loosen my belt even if I'm going to the toilet. What are you rushing me for? Sea Sovereign scolded the Empress in front of him. The Empress sobbed, tears streaming down her face. At this moment, a guard came in hurriedly. Your Majesty, something bad has happened. What bad has happened? Sea Sovereign felt like he was about to explode. The storerooms have been robbed. 7 storerooms have been ransacked. What? Sea Sovereign felt like his head was about to explode. What kind of *T was this? In the void, Yun Yang tried his best to conceal his identity. Upon hearing the report, he quickly attached himself to a large pillar and carefully studied Neptune from head to toe. That oceanic suppressing staff. Where did he put it? Just as Yun Yang was about to lay his hands on the staff, Sea Sovereign walked out in a rage. It was only a moment before a blurry yellow light illuminated the entire bottom of the sea. The entire seabed became as silent and solemn as before. It was obvious that the oceanic suppressing staff that Yun Yang had been longing for had shown its power again. Similarly, it was obvious that the Ocean Emperor was enraged to the extreme. Otherwise he would not have rashly used this treasure. Using this treasure twice in such a short period of time, even a peak expert like the Ocean Emperor would find it difficult to bear. Just then an order came from the outside. The power of the oceanic suppressing staff the last time has yet to dissipate. Even if that thief has an arcane skill that allows him to move freely in the sea, he's still restrained by the staff's power. This time the staff's power is activated again. Any clan other than the Sea Clan that is able to conceal themselves with any arcane skill will be exposed. Search the place. Go and investigate. Even if you have to search the entire bottom of the sea and check every corner, you have to catch him. I want to tear him into pieces and grind his bones into ashes. It was a roar that was full of energy, filled with a sense of roughness, but it did not come from Sea Sovereign's mouth. I am the Whale King. I hereby promise that anyone who finds the Bound of Universe Supreme Cloud can. It was probably a bunch of generous rewards that were enough to tempt the hearts of any sea clan. Yin Yang listened. He was initially hesitant, afraid that the staff's power was truly unimaginable and all-encompassing, capable of restraining his manifestation powers. After all, he had experienced the terror of being dominated when he had turned into a water droplet previously. However, upon closer inspection, he realized that he was still in his wind form and had not returned to his original form. Thinking back to the phrase, "Any clan other than the Sea clan that is able to conceal themselves with any arcane skill will be exposed," he could not help chuckling. That scared me to death. I thought it was true. In spite of this, the chaos outside was real. After a while, Sea Sovereign and the Whale King came in again. "Can't find him. Can't find him. There's no trace at all. Yes, this Supreme Cloud is too cunning and his methods are brilliant. The whirlpool and tornado from before were his handiwork. It's obvious that he hasn't done his best the last time, so it's not surprising that he's stirring up trouble again." Sea Sovereign frowned, feeling rather worried. "Sigh, the ocean-suppressing staff that I've used just now wasn't powerful enough. It's obviously not enough to break his unique arcane skill. If he's allowed to remain hidden, it'll be a huge problem. Now, it seems that the loss of the warehouse is only some valuables. Instead, it's this hidden enemy that's even harder to guard against. It's worrisome." The Whale King who had come with Sea Sovereign was unusually tall and muscular in his human form. He was 3.5 meters tall and his waist was more than 2 meters in circumference. His shoulders were broad and his waist round, making him look like a supergiant. A single glance from him was enough to make one feel valiant. At this moment, the Whale King seemed to find it difficult to speak as he said, If your Majesty activates the ocean-suppressing staff's maximum power, you should be able to force it out." "Maximum power?" Sea Sovereign frowned. The ocean-suppressing staff was a peerless artifact, a miraculous artifact that surpassed the limits of this world. The last time he had activated it was due to the urgency of the situation and he had no choice but to activate it. Although its power was vast and powerful, it had exhausted the spiritual energy that he had accumulated over the years. Now that he was using it again, it looked as glorious as before, but in reality, it was only a slight activation. It still required almost all of Sea Sovereign's strength. If he were to forcefully increase its power by a level, Sea Sovereign knew that he might not be able to withstand it. It's difficult for the ocean-suppressing staff to recognize its master. The vital energy that has accumulated over the years can only be used once. If you want to activate it again, you'll have to rely on the wielder's own strength. The amount of energy that can be activated depends on the wielder's strength. With my current level of ability, the activation just now was basically the limit." Sea Sovereign sighed. "Even though I am not belittling myself, I know that with my own strength, I most likely won't be able to withstand the backlash of the ocean-suppressing staff's second-level explosion." Whale King said, "Your subject naturally knows this, but we can work together with the Prime Minister, Marshal, Shark King and the others to activate it. Your Majesty, this is a crucial time. This yellow Supreme Cloud is eyeing us like a tiger watching its prey. We must find him and eliminate him. If we ignore him, the consequences will be unimaginable." Sea Sovereign hesitated. The reason for his hesitation was, he was afraid. Although working together to activate the ocean-suppressing staff was the best way to deal with it, what if there were any mistakes during the activation process? For example, what if the Whale King took the opportunity to steal the ocean-suppressing staff? That was a divine artifact that had not recognized its master. It belonged to whoever held it in their hands. Sea Sovereign would never believe that Whale King and the others did not covet it. In the past, the ocean-suppressing staff's vital energy was still present. It was invincible in one attack and anyone who stood in its way would die. Sea Sovereign was also the strongest person in the Sea Clan, so he naturally did not have to worry about others coveting it. But now, the situation was very different. Opposite him, Whale King was looking at Sea Sovereign eagerly, obviously waiting for his suggestion to be accepted. Logically speaking, Whale King's suggestion should be accepted and carried out. Sea Sovereign could not help but fall into an awkward situation. At this time, the hunched and doddering Turtle Prime Minister slowly walked in. "Your Majesty, Whale King's suggestion is the most feasible strategy at the moment. Everything is for the Sea Clan. This old subject knows that Your Majesty has concerns, but Your Majesty has held the ocean-suppressing divine staff for many years. No matter what, you should be able to grasp a certain degree of the ocean-suppressing divine staff's characteristics. When we work together, we only need to place the ocean-suppressing divine staff on the platform and let Whale King and the others work together to activate it. Then, Your Majesty will sit in the center and personally guide the ocean-suppressing divine staff's power." I believe there will be no objections. After all, no one is more familiar with using the ocean-suppressing divine staff than your majesty. Turtle Prime Minister said, this way we can ensure that nothing goes wrong. We can also conveniently eliminate that yellow supreme cloud. Sea Sovereign's eyes lit up. This was a good compromise. This process was equivalent to using the Whale King and the others' help to activate the ocean-suppressing divine staff, and he could even maintain his own strength at its peak. Who would dare take away the oceanic-suppressing divine staff then? Activating the oceanic-suppressing divine staff was enough to exhaust everyone, and there was also Sea Sovereign, who had the highest cultivation base, watching from the side. Anyone who dared to have any evil thoughts would be courting death. Furthermore, if this method was carried out, even external pressure would be easily resolved. This was because this method would greatly increase the top combat power of the Sea Clan, and the threat of the Demon Clan would no longer need to be concerned. Alright, let's do it. Whale King Prime Minister, you will arrange this. Sea Sovereign agreed without hesitation. The Whale King lowered his head and replied loudly, yes. Turning his head, a deep sense of disappointment flashed across his eyes. Sea Sovereign was in charge, using everyone's strength to activate the oceanic-suppressing divine staff. Would they not be working for nothing? All the prestige and benefits would be taken away by Sea Sovereign alone. His suggestion, which he had spent so much effort on, had actually shot himself in the foot? ** King nonsense. And that old tortoise, why was he so annoying? However, things had already come to this and he was the one who had suggested it. How could he object? He could only go ahead with it. Yun Yang, who was hiding on the pillar, had his eyes lit up. Oceanic-suppressing divine staff? Was there such a good thing? Chapter 1485. Neptune, who felt that the situation was in his favor, had a gleam in his eyes. Little did he know that Yun Yang, who was hidden on the side, had a gleam in his eyes as well. Divine oceanic staff? Was he going to take it out now? *CK, he was so lucky. He called Emmy immediately to come up with a countermeasure. Yeah, Emmy's voice sounded a little weak. It was probably trying its best to absorb and digest the karmic chi, but the amount of karmic chi it had absorbed in the past few days was just too much. It was so much that Emmy could not bear the burden. No matter how much it swallowed, it could not see the end of it. Therefore, when it heard Yun Yang's call, it expressed a peculiar sense of exhaustion. It had been grumbling about how slow it was in collecting karmic energy, but it was suddenly so fast and abundant. The contrast was so great that Emmy could hardly adapt to it. It had absorbed such an enormous amount of karmic energy in one go, almost causing Emmy indigestion. It had caused Emmy's work efficiency to be unprecedentedly low. However, from Yun Yang's point of view, Emmy was clearly overeating. Yun Yang's words were unmistakably correct. Under normal circumstances, Yun Yang would need at least 50 years to accumulate enough energy to advance to the 8th level. The upper limit could not be estimated. It was entirely possible that it would take 700 to 800 years, 3,000 to 5,000 years, or even longer. The karmic chi of billions of lives. Emmy had finished at least 50 years' worth of food in 2 to 3 days. How could it not be bloated? How could it not? Indigestion was normal. Overeating and indigestion, it was already a good state for it to only suffer from low work efficiency. It would be truly tragic if it died from overeating. Look, that's the legendary divine oceanic staff, the dreamy treasure of this world. Is there a way to take it away? Yun Yang said excitedly. The divine oceanic staff was an item of unprecedented rank. It looked like its rank was not only higher than the purple jade flute, it was even higher than his divine edge. Yun Yang was naturally tempted. This might be the only chance he had. If the Whale King Neptune's plan succeeded, the situation would be reversed. Yun Yang was still fearful of the divine oceanic staff's power. How could he let go of such an opportunity? Why am I here? On the other side, the Whale King did not dare to be negligent. He quickly gathered more than 20 peak experts of the sea race, all of whom were at the king level. All of them sat cross-legged in a circle, and in the middle there was a table, just as Prime Minister Turtle had said. The Ocean Emperor took out the sea-suppressing divine scepter and placed it on the platform. This platform looked unremarkable, but it was actually made of rare cold iron from the bottom of the sea. It could be said to be indestructible and difficult to damage. However, when the divine staff placed it there, it produced creaking sounds as if it could not bear the weight. If it weren't for the sea race's experts solidifying their demonic powers, they would have been pressed deep into the ground. That's the sea-suppressing divine staff. Yun Yang snuck a peek and saw that the oceanic suppressing staff was only a staff as thick as a wrist, emitting a faint golden glow. There was a metal hoop on each end, and there seemed to be words or pictures in the middle. After all, the distance was too far and there was the interference of the golden light, so it was difficult to see clearly. But overall it was very ordinary and there was nothing special about it. When Emmy scanned it with its deific consciousness, its vines shook, sending a rare sense of panic and fear to Yun Yang. Aya? Emmy swayed continuously. Yun Yang's gaze froze. You mean you can't do anything about it? Aya? Emmy cried out in fear. Yun Yang frowned. Emmy's reply was interesting. Emmy expressed that it could not do anything about this divine weapon, and was even more innately fearful. There was an incomparable murderous aura left on the golden staff. The murderous aura was the kind of extreme aura that could slay immortals and gods, unbridled and lawless. Such a murderous aura was Emmy's nemesis, so Emmy dared not even touch it. However, Yun Yang could still try to take it. According to Emmy, this was a divine weapon. However, the original owner of this divine weapon was no longer in this world and had given the divine weapon complete freedom. In other words, this divine weapon was now an ownerless treasure, and anyone could take it. It was just that no one had been able to tame this divine weapon. Therefore, the stick temporarily belonged to the person who held it in his hand. Before the new owner was recognized, no one else, not even the strong cultivators of the universe, could claim this divine weapon as their own. At most, they could only use it to a certain extent. Yin Yang was amazed. He could not help but recall the ancient legend that Dongfang Haoren had mentioned to him. A demon clan's omnipotent almighty, a monkey clan's great saint, had claimed a piece of territory for the demon clan with the omnipotent staff. Could it be that this oceanic suppressing staff was actually the omnipotent staff? If that's the case, if I can get my hands on it, this staff will be mine? Yun Yang's imagination ran wild. Looking at the oceanic suppressing staff on the platform, his gaze was unusually heated. What a great item! However, Yun Yang knew very well that although this staff was a great item, it would never be his. This was an item with an owner. Its owner had only placed it here temporarily. How heavy does this thing actually weigh? Yun Yang studied it with a frown. Ocean Emperor seems to be holding it quite heavily, and that platform, it's almost collapsed. Emmy calculated carefully and said, Aya, who knows? Anyway, with your current cultivation base you can at most lift it up, but it's impossible to carry it around. Yun Yang was speechless for a moment. This was depressing. If that was the case, there was a very high possibility that if he were to snatch this thing, even if he defeated all his enemies, he might be pinned down by the staff when he lifted it up, unable to move. Then he would be caught red-handed effortlessly. Sect leader Yun stroked his chin, growing increasingly hesitant. If that was the case, would he not be the biggest joke in the bound of universe since ancient times? The thief who stole the staff would be pinned down by the staff, unable to move? Emmy, what if I'm pinned down by the staff? Can I still transform? This was Yun Yang's bottom line. There were always accidents in this world. Being pinned down by the staff was not the scariest thing. What if he could not transform after being pinned down? Yun Yang felt that he would definitely break down on the spot. Emmy seemed to be terrified of the staff to a certain extent, its answer lacking confidence and filled with uncertainty. Probably. Maybe. Almost. Probably. Not very useful. Yun Yang could not help but chuckle bitterly. What was this? The covetous Emmy had initially planned to keep the staff in his pocket, but the reality was that it was a cheating weapon. Emmy had expressed its helplessness and fear. Unwilling to give up, the Emmy had wanted to try it himself, but Emmy had told him that not only was the item heavy enough to crush a thief like him to death, it could also counter all of his manifestation powers without any blind spots. Did this not mean that he could only wait for the staff to be activated and be forced to reveal himself, falling into a dead end? It was at this moment. More than 20 experts of the Sea Clan exerted their strength at the same time. Endless demonic chi surged into the oceanic suppressing staff like rivers flowing into the ocean. The oceanic suppressing staff shone with a golden light, blinding the entire seabed. This golden light was very different from the yellow light from a moment ago. It had a soft feeling to it, and it was closer to the golden light from the beginning. At the same time, an overwhelming aura emanated from the oceanic suppressing staff. The aura was mixed with the aura of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, a domineering aura that could wreak havoc in the world. Other than that, there was also an air of defiance and change of fate. The billowing aura reverberated in the ocean. Yun Yang was too close to the source of the golden light, almost within reach. Yun Yang, who was already under immense psychological pressure, felt his state of mind wavering, almost unable to maintain the form of his wind manifestation. Yun Yang made up his mind, circulating the endless divine art in a frenzy. Only then did his state of mind improve slightly and calm down, preventing himself from being exposed on the spot. He had been calculating in his heart, should I attack? Should I? However, as the Sea Clan experts continued to inject their demonic chi into the oceanic suppressing staff, the aura grew stronger and stronger, becoming more and more irresistible. Yun Yang could clearly feel his manifestation disintegrating bit by bit. In other words, he was about to be exposed. However, once he was exposed, he would be exposed to the encirclement of so many experts from the Sea Clan. That would be the worst scenario. Yun Yang thought nervously of a countermeasure. It was a pity that intelligence was no match for absolute ability, not to mention that there was not much time left for Yun Yang. The worst situation had still arrived. As the top experts of the Sea Clan instilled their demonic chi into the oceanic suppressing staff, the staff grew brighter and brighter. With a soft hum, rays of golden light dispersed. This was the combined power of more than 20 saints. How domineering! The golden light exploded. The entire seabed was completely enveloped by the oceanic suppressing staff's power, even, controlled. More than 20 saints were sweating profusely, their breaths short and their faces pale. It was obvious that they had expended a great deal of energy. The combined power of so many pinnacle experts had only activated the second stage of the oceanic suppressing staff's power, but they were already at their limits. Who knew how high the oceanic suppressing staff's maximum power was? What level? However, at least for now, this level of power was sufficient. As the golden light flickered wildly, it illuminated the entire ocean, reaching everywhere. The unparalleled aura intimidated the entire seabed, unhindered. The oceanic suppressing staff was only quietly placed on the table, but the entire seabed had become its territory. Yun Yang's manifestation power had completely disintegrated and his figure was revealed. Sea King and the Empress discovered Yun Yang, who was no longer in his manifestation. There he is. Heaven and Earth's supreme cloud. Sea King was even more enraged. This bastard, how dare he hide in the assembly hall so brazenly? He was too daring. He had just ordered the search outside, but the target was actually right under his nose. This was simply, a strange feeling of speechlessness surged in his heart. Take him down. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Yun Yang reacted swiftly, sprinting towards the oceanic suppressing staff like his life depended on it. It was as if he had turned into a ray of light. Sea King reacted swiftly as well, sprinting over as well, laughing maniacally. Supreme Cloud, are you coveting the divine artifact of the Sea Clan? You think too much. His voice revealed an extremely joyful tone. Yun Yang's move was a last resort. There was no other way to deal with it. His whereabouts had been exposed, so he could only take the risk. At this moment, Prime Minister Turtle, Whale King, and many other top experts of the Sea Clan were gathered here. However, because they had overexerted themselves, they appeared to be on the verge of death. Their demonic powers were all gone and even their limbs were limp. For a moment they could not get up to fight. The only one who could threaten them was the Ocean King. He had to act now. If Sea King made the first move and wielded the oceanic suppressing staff, today would very likely be his death. On the other hand, if he touched the staff first, there might be a turning point and a chance of survival. In the end, Yun Yang was a step faster. Not only did he move first, but he was also closer than Sea King. The staff's golden light shone on Yun Yang at close range. It was only a short contact, but Yun Yang's body was riddled with cracks. Dozens of wounds were so deep that his bones could be seen. However, Yun Yang did not care that he was bathed in blood. Mustering his remaining strength, he sprinted towards the staff. The moment the divine edge was in his hands, the saber landed on the oceanic suppressing staff with a loud bang. Clang. The entire sea was violently turned upside down with this roar. In the hall, the golden light shone brightly once more, scattering endlessly. Sea King was only a step slower than Yun Yang. He was the closest to the oceanic suppressing staff among everyone present, so he was naturally the first to be hit by the golden light. He could not help but howl in pain. Due to being struck by the divine edge, the oceanic suppressing staff's self-defense ability was triggered. It was actually a level stronger than the combined efforts of all the experts of the Sea Clan. The unprecedentedly majestic force spread far and wide, affecting everyone present. The saints of the Sea Clan, who were already exhausted, spat out mouthfuls of blood as they fell helplessly. This also resulted in the oceanic suppressing staff remaining on the stage as steady as a mountain, but the connection formed by the saints of the Sea clan earlier was cut off immediately. The oceanic suppressing staff's power was immediately interrupted. Yun Yang ignored the extreme counterattack of the oceanic suppressing staff's self-defense mechanism and grabbed one end of the staff at once. At the same time, Sea King was already close to him. Supreme Cloud die. A thunderous, decisive strike followed. Yun Yang gritted his teeth and did not evade. He arched his back and took the blow head-on. Being hit by Sea King's extreme strike, he saw stars and was severely injured. However, by borrowing the force of Sea King's attack, Yun Yang had already lifted one end of the oceanic suppressing staff. Sea King's expression changed, obviously not expecting Yun Yang to have such strength to be able to move the oceanic suppressing staff. Little did he know that Yun Yang was groaning inwardly. What F*King staff was this? It was 2F*King heavy? At the very least, it had to be as heavy as 8 to 10 mountains. A supreme saint already had the ability to move mountains and fill oceans. A saint would naturally be stronger, but there was a limit to one's strength. For Yun Yang, it was not difficult to lift or even throw 3 to 5 mountains consecutively with all his strength, but the oceanic suppressing staff's weight had to be at least as heavy as 8 to 10 mountains connected together. Otherwise, Yun Yang would not have such difficulty lifting it. On the other side, the Empress of the Sea, who was also a highly skilled martial artist, pounced over in a frenzy. This woman had killed Yun Yang's son and daughter. They were absolutely irreconcilable. Now that they had met, she would naturally go all out to kill him, leaving no room for negotiation. Sea King's second wave of attack came from the other side. Sea King laughed maniacally as he attacked, as if he had seen something incredibly stupid. He did not seem to be worried that Yun Yang, who had already moved the staff, would be able to take it away. Bang bang bang, Yun Yang took 3 consecutive hits from Sea King and 2 from the Empress. Finally, with a loud roar and spitting blood, he lifted the oceanic suppressing staff completely and said angrily, "Keep it for your father." With a clang, the oceanic suppressing staff really disappeared from his hands. The Sea King turned pale with fright. At this moment, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He shrieked, "Keep him." The Ocean Emperor was truly shocked and panicked. He never thought that a human without demonic aura would be able to take away the ocean-suppressing divine scepter. That was the demonic ancestor's sacred weapon. Other than being able to slightly activate it with demonic chi, other forces could not possibly touch the oceanic suppressing staff at all, let alone human mystical chi. There would be a strong backlash too. It was because of this that he did not mind Yun Yang coveting the oceanic suppressing staff. "Even if I let you take it, can you take it away? To you, the more you touch the oceanic suppressing staff, the more you'll exhaust yourself. I can take the chance to kill you and get rid of any future troubles." It was because of this thought that he was not in a hurry. Even when he saw Yun Yang grab the oceanic suppressing staff, he did not panic. The oceanic suppressing staff in his hand would only become a burden to Yun Yang. He could not even move and would become a live target that would not rest until he was dead. "No matter how cunning you are, Supreme Cloud, you'll have to drink the water I wash my feet with this time." Neptune had even made up his mind to let Yun Yang hold onto the oceanic divine staff until he beat him to death. What he did not expect was for Yun Yang to actually lift the divine staff of ocean-suppressing staff. Not only did he lift it up, he even took it away. How was this possible? At this moment, Sea King was completely dumbfounded. He dared not believe what he was seeing, almost suspecting that he was in a nightmare. After a moment, extreme shock, extreme fear and extreme anger filled his heart. My oceanic suppressing staff. My artifact. I almost fought the Phoenix Sovereign to the death, but the artifact that I wanted to hand over was taken away by another person, by a human? At this moment, Sea King, who was on the verge of collapse, went berserk. Howling, he rushed over. "Leave the oceanic suppressing staff behind." All the Sea Clan experts supported themselves with all their might and rushed over. "Leave the oceanic suppressing staff behind." However, it was not easy for Yun Yang to keep it. How could he hand it over? With a long howl, the purple jade flute in his hand reappeared. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? What followed was a series of bam 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 sounds, 8 ways to fight at night. Poof poof poof, the brains of the 3 demonic saints who were at their lowest state burst. Yun Yang grunted and spat another mouthful of blood. He turned into a ray of light and rushed out of the Sea King's hall. Chapter 1486. Seeing that Yun Yang had escaped, Sea Emperor chased after him like a maniac. "Stop him! Stop him! Sea Emperor bellowed with all his might, turning into a bolt of lightning. The experts of the Sea clan behind him struggled to stand up as well. Other than the 3 unlucky saints who had yet to recover from having their brains ruptured, the rest of the Sea clansmen staggered out, ignoring the fact that their cultivation base had yet to recover. All the Sea clansmen present were burning with anxiety and trepidation. The divine ocean suppressing staff, the peerless artifact that had been passed down by the demonic race for a long time, had been snatched under everyone's watchful eyes. It had been snatched under the watchful eyes of almost 30 pinnacle experts of the Sea clan. This matter was simply absurd just by listening to it. It was just a joke. Yet it had happened. Yun Yang charged out of the hall like a gust of wind and bumped into a troop of thousands of Sea clan warriors. Without a word, Yun Yang barged in without any room for resistance. The hundreds of warriors who bore the brunt of Yun Yang's charge were smashed into minced meat. Yun Yang's charge, on the other hand, had created a bloody path in the troop of thousands of people. Blood splattered in the air as far as the eye could see. Everything had happened too quickly. The cultivation base of the Sea clan warriors was far weaker than Yun Yang's. Before they could understand what was going on, Yun Yang had already barged through. Then there was a loud boom. It was Yun Yang, who had not yet exhausted his momentum, breaking through the barrier in the water and entering the vast ocean. Yun Yang managed to escape from the imperial city, but before he could thank his lucky stars, he felt a heavy sense of injury and helplessness. He knew that he had yet to truly escape, so he dared not relax. Forcefully activating his water manifestation power, he turned himself into a water droplet again and sped upwards. Fortunately, the oceanic suppressing staff's power that the Zhu Hai crowd had unleashed earlier was halted by Yun Yang's saber. Otherwise, if they were to turn into water and escape now, they would probably be trapped in their own trap. Neptune's pursuit of Yun Yang was almost in front of and behind him, but Yun Yang was already nowhere to be seen. With another roar, Neptune's manifestation appeared abruptly. It was the true form of Naga with 3 heads and 8 arms. An awe-inspiring curtain of light enveloped the sea in an instant. As far as the eye could see, the seawater had turned into a combination of blue sea and blue sky. Amidst the jade-green sea, there was a speck of white light that seemed to be flying upwards. He is over there. Sea Race General Mobilization Order. Capture Supreme Cloud at all costs. All sages, Saint Venerables and Saints move out at all costs. Disregard casualties. Seal the sea. Seal the seawater. Supreme Cloud must be killed in the sea. The Sea Emperor rushed towards the surface of the sea as he gave out orders. Following the Ocean King's order, the entire sea began to tremble. Countless experts of the sea race rode on the waves, tearing through the void and seawater as they charged towards the surface of the sea. Their momentum was unprecedented. For a moment, the entire sea churned like a pot that had been boiled. Emperor Rock and the others were still standing guard at the top of the mountain to prevent Yun Yang from wreaking havoc. In the midst of his boredom, he suddenly saw the entire sea emit a dazzling golden light that was quickly extinguished. Then it emitted an even more dazzling golden light once again. Has the sea race gone mad? Are they activating the divine staff's power twice in a row? All the sovereigns were extremely confused by what they were seeing. A moment later, the sea churned like a pot that had been boiled. What the hell was going on? Could there have been a great battle? Emperor Peng, Emperor Eagle, and the others watched attentively. They even took pleasure in Emperor Peng's misfortune. It looked like something big had happened to these fellows of the sea race. They deserved it. It was unknown whether some powerhouse of the sea race coveted the Sea Emperor's divine staff of suppressing sea, or perhaps some other change had occurred. Just as the sovereigns were focused, the seawater beneath them suddenly split apart as if it had exploded. A faintly discernible white light shot up into the sky, carrying an immeasurable amount of seawater with it. It flashed past and disappeared in midair. Almost at the same time, a stalwart figure with 3 heads and 8 arms, similarly engulfed in billowing waves, rushed up as well and roared, "Supreme Cloud! Leave the divine weapon behind." They rushed into the air and began to fight in all directions. There was clearly no one near the space where the imposing figure stood, but the Sea Emperor continued to unleash ferocious attacks as if he was fighting an invisible person. A moment later, many experts of the sea race emerged from the sea. There were so many of them that it was as if all the experts of the sea race had gathered in one place. It was an unprecedented scene. Suddenly, the Sea Emperor of the horizon let out a roar, and a muffled groan came from the air. A figure finally appeared. It was Yun Yang. He staggered backward, his body covered in wounds and blood dripping from head to toe. There was almost no unscathed flesh on his body. Emperor Peng and the other sovereigns could not help but suck in a cold breath when they saw this scene. This heaven's yellow supreme cloud was truly audacious. He had actually gone to the bottom of the sea to cause trouble. But what had he done? How could he have made the Sea Emperor come after him in such a frenzied manner, risking his life? He kept causing trouble here, fighting with the Eagle Emperor, the Phoenix Emperor, the Tiger Emperor, the Leopard Emperor, and now the Ocean Emperor. Every battle was an extreme battle where he had a slim chance of survival. Even though there were many saint-level cultivators in the demon race, none of them had such rich combat experience as Yun Yang. It could be said that the Heaven's Yellow Supreme Cloud's experience in the demon race was a gamble with his life on the line. With so many dangers, so many adventures, and so many extreme battles, Emperor Peng and the others could not help but break out in sweat and shudder at the thought of it. However, he had come all the way. He did not die and had grown all the way to where he was now. The Heaven's Yellow Supreme Cloud is indeed a hero of his generation. A peerless prodigy. I'm inferior. Emperor Peng could not help but sigh. He thought of himself and wondered if he had been living too comfortably all these years. Even though he was severely injured and his physical strength was exhausted, Yun Yang still wielded his saber like it was flying. Saber light streaked across the sky like a cold bolt of lightning. The experts of the Sea clan who besieged Yun Yang all had wounds on their bodies. Blood splattered endlessly and rained down from the sky. However, Yun Yang's indomitable spirit did not make the experts of the Sea clan retreat. All of them seemed to have gone mad as they cheered for a fierce battle, never backing down. Yun Yang's situation was inevitably getting more and more dangerous. Ever since he left the sea, no one, be it Yun Yang or the experts of the Sea clan, spoke a word related to this battle. Eagle Emperor, who was watching the battle coldly from the side, suddenly had a gleam in his eyes. When Sea Emperor first came out, he said in a fit of rage, "Yun Yang, put down the divine weapon." Could Yun Yang have stolen some divine weapon of the Sea clan and caused the Sea clan to besiege him and not stop until he's dead? His eyes grew brighter and brighter. Then, could the divine weapon that Yun Yang took be the oceanic suppressing staff? When he mentioned the sea suppressing divine staff, the Eagle Emperor's body couldn't help but tremble. The eyes of Emperor Peng, Emperor Tiger, and the others lit up like searchlights as well. How many divine weapons were there in this world? To be able to be called a divine artifact, it seemed like there was only one of them right now. Another loud crash resounded. Yun Yang was flung away like a kite with a broken string. Along the way, new wounds were added to his body. In just a blink of an eye, there were another 50 to 60 new wounds. Yun Yang bellowed as if his life depended on it. Purple chi filled the sky as the purple jade flute appeared once more. He did not ponder what skill he was going to use anymore. Instead, he retaliated violently and broke a high-level saint's body in half. After his successful attack, he shouted angrily, "Sea Emperor! Even if you kill me today, don't even think about taking back the oceanic suppressing staff." The direction he retreated towards was where Emperor Peng and the others were. Sea Emperor was enraged. "You're courting death." Since the beginning of the gang fight, he had been suppressing Yun Yang with the most ferocious attacks. He did not even have the time to catch his breath, much less the time to speak. It was all to prevent Yun Yang from opening his mouth and becoming an additional variable. Now, this fellow was clearly at the end of his tether and could die at any time, but he had found such an opportunity. And this sentence could possibly change the outcome of this battle. As expected, as soon as Yun Yang spoke, no less than 30 to 40 saints of the demon race who were watching the battle from the other side of the mountain widened their eyes. They looked at each other without blinking, as if they were afraid of missing out on any information. Emperor Peng, who had been watching from the sidelines, let out a long howl and flew up first. Almost at the same time, the Eagle Emperor and the others flew up as well, followed by the Tiger Emperor and Panther Emperor. Countless experts of the demon race pounced over like a swarm of bees. Sea Emperor was enraged. "Rock Emperor! What are you all doing?" Emperor Peng laughed harshly. "What are we doing? We're just upholding some justice. We're watching you fight with numbers and bully others. It's really against morality. We're enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens." Sea Emperor said angrily, "Do you know what you're doing? You're helping humans. Are you trying to cause a war between the sea race and the demon race? This is a period of cooperation between the two races. Are you doing this because of the Demon Emperor's instructions?" Emperor Peng laughed out loud. "When did I intend to destroy the cooperation between the two races? Although Supreme Cloud is a human, he's also the sworn brother of the demon race's Fox Emperor and Cat ancestor. Naturally, he's also an old friend of ours. No matter what, we have to give those two brothers some face. We can't let their brothers be bullied by you and die in one day." As they spoke, the demon emperors were not far from Yunyang. Yunyang laughed when he heard this. "Emperor Peng and Eagle Emperor are indeed my big brother's good brothers. I believe the two brothers will still be smiling in the afterlife." As soon as he said this, the faces of Emperor Peng, Eagle Emperor, Fox Emperor, and the others flushed red. The situation was urgent, and there was no excuse to forcefully intervene. The sovereigns had no choice but to use the Fox Emperor's name. They were already upset, and when they were provoked by Yunyang's words, they felt even more bitter. Yunyang's face was pale, and he had little mystical chi left. The endless divine art that he was still using was already difficult to move. He really could not hold on any longer and urgently needed some time to catch his breath. Otherwise, he would not have come up with such a bad plan to lure the demon emperors over. As the Eagle Emperor and the other demon emperors intervened forcefully, the Sea Race's attack was still ongoing, but it was still affected. Yunyang, who was still besieged, finally had some breathing room. The three parties had probably fallen into a very subtle stalemate. Seeing that the demon emperors were about to intervene in the battle, the Sea Race was furious. They did not know if they should split up to stop the demons. Yunyang, who was already exhausted and barely holding on, suddenly unleashed the last of his strength. Not only did he force the besiegers to retreat, but he also soared up into the sky. Yunyang looked like he had escaped, but it was actually just a fleeting moment of invincibility. The attack had already used up his remaining mystical chi and skill, leaving him with no energy to escape. Even if he had some energy left, how could he survive when faced with so many demon emperors of the bird species who were famous for flying? Below, the demon race and sea race's experts rushed over together, targeting Yunyang with murderous intent. However, Yunyang was not someone who would act rashly. What he did just now was, of course, a deliberate move. He let out a long laugh. "Ah. Since I can't bring this oceanic suppressing staff away, I'll hand it over to you. Emperor Peng, not only because you've helped me but also because you still remember the words Fox Emperor." The office's stereo went silent. "I got someone to fix it. After an entire afternoon, I found out that the wiring had been rearranged, and I tried connecting it to electricity. I found out that there was a power outage. I'm speechless. It's fine if I don't know, but nitrogen. You're the one who fixed the stereo, but you don't know either. I think this is too weird. I even paid $100 in the end. It's been a few hours, but I'm still depressed." Chapter 1487. With a flash of golden light, the divine ocean-suppressing staff, which he had just obtained and had yet to warm up, fell out of his deific consciousness space and landed on Emperor Rock, who was the fastest. Yunyang's body continued to rise, soaring upwards. However, at this moment, all the gazes and attention of the experts from the demon race and sea clan were no longer on Yunyang, even though Yunyang was the archenemy of the demon race and sea clan and a target they had to eliminate. At this moment, there was only one thing in everyone's eyes: the divine ocean-suppressing staff. Although Emperor Neptune wished that he could skin Yunyang alive and grind his bones to ashes, he still chose to temporarily let Yunyang go at this juncture. He turned his target back to snatching the divine ocean-suppressing staff. A supreme artifact. The symbol of power. Invincible. In an instant, the experts of the demon race and sea clan fell into a frenzy. Everyone's target was the divine ocean-suppressing staff. Hundreds of saint experts rushed towards the divine ocean-suppressing staff that was shining with a yellow light and falling straight from the sky. It looked like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. Furthermore, this group of hungry tigers was ferocious. As expected, Emperor Rock was the first to touch the divine ocean-suppressing staff. A claw extended at lightning speed, wanting to take the staff away. With Emperor Rock's flying speed, no one in this world could snatch the staff away if it really fell into his hands. However, the moment Emperor Rock touched the staff, the weapons of dozens of experts from the Sea Clan slashed at him in unison. Emperor Rock could forcefully retrieve the staff, but there would inevitably be a moment of delay. That moment was enough for the weapons, palms, and cultivation techniques of dozens of pinnacle experts to strike Emperor Rock. At the same time, the Sea Emperor roared angrily. An arm suddenly stretched out without any warning, and with a whoosh, it grew thousands of feet long. Before all the attacking weapons could reach him, he ruthlessly struck Emperor Rock's chest with his palm. Emperor Rock, who was caught off guard, grunted and instantly transformed into his true form. He returned to being a giant rock that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Unfortunately, It was immediately hit by various weapons, causing golden light to flash and feathers to fly everywhere. However, with a roar, it actually resisted the countless attacks and fiercely grabbed the sea-suppressing divine staff. It would rather suffer a heavy blow than give up. With a flash of golden light, a long saber appeared in Poseidon's hand. The next moment, a saber light flashed. All the experts had the same feeling: heaven and earth would be split into two by this saber. Golden light flashed. Emperor Rock let out an extremely painful roar. His voice shook the entire area. A massive claw, which was as large as a mountain, had been sliced off by the brilliant saber strike. The huge rock claw, together with the ocean-suppressing divine scepter, fell into the sea. The Eagle Emperor let out a long cry as his body shook, revealing his true form. Like a black arrow, he shot forward at an unparalleled speed. At the last moment when the sea-suppressing divine staff was about to fall into the sea, Jiang caught up and used his spine to lift the sea-suppressing divine staff up. With a boom, the sea-suppressing divine staff fell onto the Eagle Emperor's back. This was equivalent to being ruthlessly smashed. The Eagle Emperor let out a muffled groan and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, this didn't reduce the joy of obtaining a treasure at all. He flapped his wings with all his might and took advantage of the gap to fly away with the sea-suppressing divine staff. In an instant, he flew more than 1,000 feet away and spat out a mouthful of life essence. His speed actually increased once again. If he was as fast as an arrow just now, then he was even faster than an arrow now. He was about to rush out of the encirclement. However, at this moment he was not far from the sea. A monstrous wave suddenly rose, and actually enveloped the Eagle Emperor, who was moving at high speed within the wave. A cold and stern voice shouted, "Come down!" Countless weapons flashed in the waves again. The Eagle Emperor roared at the sky. Large amounts of blood immediately gushed out of his body, splattering the sky. However, the Black Eagle body seemed to not see the injuries on his body. He still stubbornly held onto the sea-suppressing divine staff and struggled out of the waves with all his might. Once he returned to the sky, he let out an eagle cry, "Tiger!" The Tiger Emperor turned into his original form, a huge white tiger that was tens of thousands of feet long. He shook his head and wagged his tail as he chased after the Eagle Emperor. Ever since the Eagle Emperor rushed out, he had been chasing after him. He knew that although the Eagle Emperor's attacks were sharp and his flying speed was strong, his individual strength was far inferior. Furthermore, the sea-suppressing divine staff was unusually heavy. Thus, even if the Eagle Emperor succeeded, he still needed another helper to support him. Thus he chased after him. However, even though he chased after him with all his might, he was still left behind from the start. The Eagle Emperor's flying speed was simply too fast. Not to mention that he also had that mouthful of life essence. This also caused the Eagle Emperor to be unable to help but rely on his own strength when he was attacked. At this moment, the Eagle Emperor's huge body was like a sieve that was full of holes. Blood flowed out from many of his wounds. Previously, when he returned to the sky, he was only barely able to do so. On the surface of the sea, countless members of the sea race reached out with their huge tentacles and grabbed the Eagle Emperor, dragging him into the sea. The Eagle Emperor struggled with all his might. Thousands of feet away, the Sea Emperor and the other experts of the sea race had already torn through space and arrived. Ah! The Eagle King made a prompt decision and spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence in an instant. His power instantly increased and he let out a fierce roar. He carried the sea-suppressing divine staff on his back and dragged the countless sea race's tentacles with him as he rose 400 to 500 feet into the air and charged in the direction of the Tiger King. This is our demon ancestors' sacred weapon. It belongs to the demon race. The Eagle Emperor shouted at the top of his lungs. The Crane Emperor, the Eagle Emperor, and the other bird-type demon emperors had already arrived. Countless sharp lights shot out and cut off all the tentacles in the sea. The Tiger Emperor flew directly under the Eagle Emperor and carried him and the sea-suppressing divine staff on his back. The Crane Emperor and the Eagle Emperor also transformed into their true forms. One on the left and one on the right, they supported the Eagle Emperor and flew forward with all their might. Let's go. The Rock Emperor, the Leopard Emperor, and the Wolf Emperor had already led the other demon sages over. They all gathered behind the Eagle Emperor and the others. A total of more than 40 demon sages blocked the oceanic race army that was surging over like a tidal wave. Behind them, the demon sage and half-sage army also rushed over with all their might. The Sea Emperor appeared in a flash. He was so angry that his hair stood on end. "Rock Emperor, you snatched the divine staff by force. Are you courting death?" Without waiting for the Rock Emperor's reply, he roared, "Attack! Dead or alive." The two sides immediately fought fiercely, and it was extremely intense. At this moment, both sides forgot about the alliance and the world extermination plan. There was only one thing that mattered: the sea-suppressing divine staff. The Rock Emperor roared into the sky. The blood essence in his body surged into the sky, turning into a small rock that flapped its wings and disappeared. "Go find the Phoenix Emperor." The next moment, both sides collided violently. Just a single touch caused blood to spurt everywhere. For the demon race. For the sea race. As soon as both sides came into contact, they fought with all their might. More than 20 beginner-level saints exploded the moment they came into contact with the sea-suppressing divine staff. The battle was indescribably tragic. On the other hand, Yunyang, the culprit, was panting hard in the sky. This time he was almost beaten to a pulp. Now no one, be it the oceanic race or the demons, paid attention to him. He was an irreconcilable enemy of the demon race and the sea race. Looking at the battle below, Yunyang heaved a long sigh of relief. "Alliance? I'll let you guys form an alliance. With the sea-suppressing divine staff, let's see how you guys reconcile." The demon race's civil war was so intense that the sun and moon lost their light. They fought from the sea to the sky and then back to the sea. Countless Saint Venerables and Saint Monarchs fell from the sky like dumplings. Too many experts from the two clans had already become corpses the moment they fell from the sky. Whether it was Saint Monarchs or Saint Venerables, or even half-step saints, as long as they had not reached the level of a saint, they could not instantly recover their origin and be reborn from a single drop of blood. Participating in a battle of this level was no different from courting death. This was only the members of the oceanic race nearby. They had already fled in panic at the beginning of the battle. Those who did not manage to escape in time, the weaker members of the oceanic race who lived within 3,000 miles of the battle's origin and 20,000 feet underwater, were all killed by the aftermath of the battle. As the battle became more and more intense, even the top saint-level powerhouses of this world began to fall. In the continuous fierce battle, 9 saint-level of the Sea Clan and 7 saint-level of the Demon Clan died because their life force was completely wiped out. Among the Sea Clan sages, only 4 of them died because their combat power was not strong enough and they were attacked by the demons. The other 5 died because they were part of the group that activated the sea-suppressing divine scepter in the Sea Emperor Palace. Because they had consumed too much energy in the process of activating the scepter, they had rushed to the battle before they could recover. In the end, they were completely exhausted and were besieged to death by the Demon Clan. Their deaths could be said to be extremely tragic. Strictly speaking, at least in this round of battle, the oceanic race's loss was far greater than the demon race's. Those who were qualified and capable of joining forces to activate the sea-suppressing divine staff were the cream of the crop, whether it was their cultivation base or their loyalty to the Sea Emperor. They were also the cream of the oceanic race's pinnacle combat power. The death of 5 of them was a great loss. Although the demons had also lost 7 saints, none of them were demon emperors. They were only the elites of the various races. As the casualties on both sides increased, both sides became more and more bloodthirsty. They shouted loudly and fought fiercely. The Eagle Emperor and the Rock Emperor were injured, but they still fought bravely. This also caused many experts of the oceanic race to focus their attacks on them. As a result, although the 2 emperors did not die, they were beaten to the point where their lives were hanging by a thread. Finally, they were rescued by the experts of the demon race and escorted to the mountain by the sea. Only then did they have a chance to catch their breath. At that moment, the focus of both sides was the sea-suppressing divine staff. It was still emitting a yellow light as it stood on the mountaintop. It was not that no one wanted to keep it, but the item was ridiculously heavy. Ordinary spatial items could not carry it at all. Even if the Tiger Emperor and the other demons had exquisite spatial items that had been passed down since ancient times and could carry this treasure, the user's movement would be restricted immediately. They would be slowed down by more than 60%, and they would have to expend a lot of energy to deal with it. The Tiger Emperor had originally planned to keep it, but countless experts of the oceanic race had focused on the wielder of the staff without any regard for their lives. Even someone as powerful as the Tiger Emperor had almost died, so he had quickly placed this hot potato on a mountain. The Tiger Emperor sighed deeply. This thing was 2F** king heavy. No wonder Rock Emperor, who had both speed and strength, couldn't escape with the treasure when he came into contact with it. Instead, he had lost one of his claws. The Eagle Emperor had temporarily obtained the treasure, but it had become a huge burden. If he had not continuously activated the origin of life, he might have perished in this battle. Now this thing was the Reaper's stick. Whoever took it would die. As for Yunyang, he could not be blamed for giving up on the treasure. Carrying this thing would greatly slow down his speed, and he would definitely die if he tried to escape with it. As the battle grew more and more intense, the demonic beasts, who had relatively fewer people, were all fighting with all their might. They could no longer free themselves to retrieve the divine staff. The only two that were free were the heavily injured Eagle Emperor and Rock Emperor, who were on the verge of death. The Eagle Emperor did not have any spare energy to retrieve the staff in his current state. He could barely even breathe now. Asking him to retrieve the staff now was akin to asking him to die. There was also the Rock Emperor. He had only lost one of his claws, but he had endured countless attacks from the oceanic race and had been struck by Neptune's palm. His injuries were not much better than the Eagle Emperor's, so he could only take a breather. On the demon race's side, even though all of them were elites and all of them were fighting with their lives on the line, their absolute strength was still far inferior to the other side. Especially as the battle continued, more and more sea races reinforcements arrived. The demon race originally had more than 600 high-end combat forces, but now only slightly more than 300 were left. The demon race's experts who were below the middle level of Saint Monarch had long died. At this moment, the remaining 300 or so experts formed a defensive circle, protecting the dying Eagle Emperor, Rock Emperor, and the divine ocean staff in the center of the circle. They were still fighting and resisting stubbornly. There were more and more members of the sea race outside, with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Their total combat power had already exceeded 50,000, and their combat power was at least above the level of a supreme saint. The sea-suppressing divine scepter was right in front of them, within easy reach. The eyes of the sea race all turned red, and their attacks became stronger and stronger. On the other hand, the demon clan was also extremely excited. They could finally take back the demon ancestors' treasure. Now that they had it, all that was left was to bring it home. As long as they could protect it, they would win. Hold on. The Crane Emperor fought fiercely. As long as we hold on until the Phoenix Emperor arrives, we will win. The ancestral treasure will return and the demon race will prosper. The Sea Emperor roared, "Come on, come on." His eyes were already bloodshot. What kind of feeling was it to have the divine artifact that had been in his hands for countless years snatched away? It was not just unforgettable, it was heart-wrenching. At this moment, a dark red flame suddenly appeared in the distance, rising endlessly and gradually approaching. That was the Phoenix Emperor rushing over. Along with it was another glorious aura, but it was unprecedentedly grand. It was as grand as it could be. That was the Demon Emperor. Other than the Demon Emperor, no one else in the entire demon race could have such a grand aura. The Sea Emperor was even more enraged. With the Demon Emperor and Phoenix Emperor arriving together, it was even more impossible to get the divine ocean staff back. Unless he could get the staff back before the 2 emperors arrived, he would no longer have any fate with the divine staff. Because of this, the Sea Emperor roared into the sky, and the boundless ocean surged. Monstrous waves shot up into the sky, as if they were really connected to the heavens. The appearance of this unprecedented wave actually cut off the Demon Emperor and Phoenix Emperor's line of sight. Following that, with a thunderous roar, a golden light flew out, and a 10,000-meter-tall golden-armored god suddenly appeared in the sky. He held a golden longbow in his hand, and then he knocked an arrow. Countless golden light arrows shot out. Countless sharp arrows shot toward the Rock Emperor, Eagle Emperor, and the others. With one arrow, the golden-armored giant immediately dissipated. However, the arrow did not dissipate. Seeing the danger, the Crane Emperor suddenly revealed his true form, and his giant wings flapped wildly, swinging toward the sharp arrows. However, there was only a soft swoosh. Not only did the seemingly indestructible wings not destroy the sharp arrows, but they were also silently pierced through. The arrowhead contained an extremely sharp aura as it pierced through the Crane Emperor's head. A drop of blood appeared. The Crane Emperor roared, and a wound appeared on his head as if it had appeared out of thin air. In the next instant, a large amount of blood mixed with brain matter flowed out rapidly. And this wound, even the Crane Emperor, who had the body of a high-grade sage, could not heal himself. The Crane Emperor roared crazily and screamed, but his huge body spun and fell from the sky. It was not just the Crane Emperor, the Tiger Emperor, the Panther Emperor, the Wolf Emperor, the Eagle Emperor. All the demon race experts that formed the defensive circle, more than 70 of them, all had an eye-catching wound in the middle of their heads. For a moment all the experts' eyes were blank and they all fell to the ground. The power of that golden light was so powerful that none of the demon race experts were spared. As for the demon race experts whose ranks were lower than sages, they died on the spot. For a moment, the sky was like dumplings being dropped into a pot. The atmosphere suddenly became unprecedentedly heavy. This scene happened too suddenly, and it was beyond everyone's expectations, whether it was the demon race or the sea race. The person who caused this shocking scene, the Ocean Emperor, had an unprecedentedly pale face, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. He looked haggard, and his body swayed in the air as if he could fall at any time. However, he still forced himself to fly toward the mountain peak. Landing. His target was the sea-suppressing divine staff. The Eagle Emperor and Rock Emperor lay on the ground, panting with difficulty. The two of them watched in despair as their brothers fell from the sky powerlessly and fell in front of them. They were panting with difficulty and their breaths were weak. They were clearly on the verge of death, but they seemed to be in a worse state than the two of them. So many powerful brothers. How could this be? What kind of injury was this? Even a high-grade sage couldn't avoid it, and they couldn't even escape. With so many demon race experts piled up here, it was difficult for them to even move. They were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Both the Eagle Emperor and Rock Emperor couldn't believe it. However, they had to believe it. That's the arrow of Nirvana. The Eagle Emperor roared. The arrow of Nirvana couldn't be avoided or dodged. It trapped the soul and anyone who was hit would die. It was also the ultimate move that the Sea Emperor could only use once in his life. He could only use it once in his life. At the same time, it was the Sea Emperor's final trump card. It forcefully extracted 90% of the Sea Emperor's soul, divine sense and physical strength, and gathered all of it in one attack. Chapter 1488. Even though the Sea Emperor's arrow of Nirvana was aimed at too many targets and was too scattered, causing its destructive power to be reduced, the Tiger Emperor and his brothers were still fatally injured. Even though they were lucky enough to survive and were still conscious for a short period of time, this was only temporary. If they didn't receive treatment in time, they would immediately be unconscious for more than 100 years. After waking up in the future, they wouldn't be able to recover their strength for at least 3,000 years. During this recovery period, they wouldn't even have 1% of their peak strength. They would need at least 10,000 years to fully recover, and it was only a possibility. But who knew what would happen in these 10,000 years? The Sea Emperor's desperate attack had achieved unprecedented results, causing more than half of the peak experts of the demon race to fall. Emperor Peng and the others were heavily injured and unconscious on the spot. There was no need to mention the low-level and mid-level sages of the demon race. All of them died on the spot under the arrow of Nirvana. They didn't even have room to struggle. Seeing the Sea Emperor fly down to grab the sea-suppressing divine staff, the Eagle Emperor's eyes turned red. Was the sea-suppressing divine staff going to be snatched back after sacrificing so many? If the Sea Emperor came down, so many of his brothers wouldn't be able to protect themselves. Would the Sea Emperor let them off? Screech. No. Emperor Peng's expression changed drastically. He clearly realized what the Eagle Emperor was about to do. However, the Eagle Emperor suddenly let out a long cry. Suddenly, his body burned with a blazing white flame. His body, which was originally lying on the ground, suddenly soared into the air and fiercely crashed towards the Sea Emperor. His entire body burned with blazing white flames. The flames became more and more intense. The Eagle Emperor looked up into the sky with determination. There was no turning back. The heavily injured Eagle Emperor's last bit of soul and origin soul burned at this moment. The Sea Emperor descended and the Eagle Emperor charged up. Seeing the Sea Emperor's might, the other experts of the sea race didn't dare to go forward. What if they aroused the Sea Emperor's suspicion? What if they were hit by that attack? Therefore, the only one who came to collect the divine artifact was the Sea Emperor himself. When they saw the Eagle Emperor fly up, it was already too late for the Turtle Minister and the others to go forward. The Eagle Sovereign and the Sea Sovereign clashed about 300 meters away from the top of the mountain. It was the most extreme and direct contact. The Eagle Emperor was so close to the Sea Emperor that he could see the fear in the Sea Emperor's eyes. No. I don't want you, my ass. The Eagle Emperor roared, "Come with me, scum." With a bang, the two monarchs collided solidly together. The blazing white flames on the Eagle Emperor's body instantly soared and engulfed the Ocean Emperor. Emperor Rock, who was the only one remaining clear-headed on the mountain, suddenly closed his eyes, unable to bear seeing the eagle monarch's final strike. At this time, a loud roar came from the horizon. "Stop!" It was the voice of the Phoenix Emperor. He had just broken through the barrier and rushed over, but it was already too late. Only the Eagle Emperor's hearty laughter resounded. "The sea-suppressing divine staff belongs to the demon race." Boom! A ball of light suddenly exploded in the air. The Eagle Emperor had activated his life source and decided to self-destruct, like a bright sun rising from the sky. The Eagle Emperor was extremely furious and decided to go to the extreme. He didn't hold back at all in this explosion. Even his Niden, origin soul, physical body, divine sense, everything that could be added was fused into this explosion. This time, not only did he not leave any leeway for himself, but he also didn't leave any leeway for the other party. Other than the mountain where Emperor Rock and the others were lying, which was deliberately preserved by the Eagle Emperor, the other 4 surrounding mountains were all reduced to ashes. Surging seawater flowed out. But at this moment no one cared about this. All the experts of the Sea Clan stared at this scene in a daze. This series of unforeseen events had first caused many sages to fall one after another. Then the Sea Emperor had used his ultimate forbidden move to destroy the demon race's peak combat power. Then the Eagle Emperor, who was on the verge of death, had gone to the extreme and self-destructed to deal with the Sea Emperor. This was really F*King exciting. It was too F*King unreal. Amidst the intense light of the explosion, the Sea Emperor's huge body tumbled. His body kept shattering and his screams rang out incessantly. His 8 arms had all left his body, and his 2 legs had also turned into specks of starlight and dissipated. As for the 3 heads, 2 of them had already disappeared. The remaining one was also emitting specks of drifting light. In the end, the remaining head and half of his body howled miserably in the blazing white light. As he struggled, he fell into the sea, dripping with blood. A figure flashed. The Phoenix Emperor and the Demon Emperor finally sensed it and landed on the mountain. When the 2 emperors saw the tragic scene, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. There was no need to say anything else. Just the Eagle Emperor's roar before he self-destructed, the sea-suppressing divine scepter that was quietly emitting yellow light on the ground, and the tragic scene. The Phoenix Emperor and the Demon Emperor almost instantly understood what had happened. This was the outcome of the fight for the sea-suppressing divine scepter. However, the 2 emperors couldn't figure out one thing. Wasn't the sea-suppressing divine scepter always in the hands of the Sea Emperor? How could there be a fight over it? This lacked a process, or rather an opportunity. Brother Phoenix. Tears of blood flew from the eyes of Emperor Rock, who was lying on the ground. Remember to avenge the eagle. Avenge the eagle? The Tiger Emperor, Leopard Emperor, and the others cried out in unison, "Avenge us! Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor." Prime Minister Turtle suddenly knelt in front of the Phoenix Emperor with his hunched body. "Your Majesty, please save my Emperor's life. From now on, the Sea Clan will follow the demon race's lead. We will no longer fight for the sea-suppressing divine scepter." The Sea Emperor's head and half of his body fell into the sea, bobbing up and down. However, the incandescent flames were still burning, and his body was still crumbling. Everyone could see that if there were no top-notch experts to rescue him and neutralize the power of the Eagle Emperor's self-destruction, which was the incandescent flames, the Sea Emperor would definitely die. He had first fought with Yun Yang with all his might, then fought with Emperor Rock and the others, sacrificing 90% of the power of his deific consciousness and soul before being attacked by the Eagle Emperor's self-destruction. Even though the Eagle Emperor was already at the end of his tether at that time, the power of the self-destruction of his soul was still enough to take away the half-dead Sea Emperor in one fell swoop. The Sea Emperor was the ruler of the Sea Clan, the supreme leader, and also the person with the highest cultivation base in the Sea Clan. Even though he had suffered heavy injuries this time, once the Sea Clan truly lost him, they would forever lose their right to speak in the demon realm. Now that the sea-suppressing divine scepter was in the hands of the demon race, they would never be able to get it back once the Dragon Emperor and Phoenix Emperor arrived. This was a fact. Therefore, Prime Minister Turtle made a prompt decision and suggested that the Sea Clan was willing to submit completely and give up the sea-suppressing divine scepter in exchange for the Sea Emperor's life. The muscles on the Phoenix Emperor's face trembled violently. He hesitated and his gaze kept changing. On the ground, Emperor Rock and the others, who were on the verge of death, raised their heads with all their might and cried out, "Brother Phoenix! No. Little Eagle has already gone. We can't let Little Eagle die in vain. We can't." At this moment, Emperor Rock and the others were already begging. They had already lost the strength to fight and were about to fall into a long coma. Even if they wanted to, they didn't have the ability. However, their brothers couldn't die in vain. The Sea Emperor had to be buried with the Eagle Emperor. The current situation was simple. As long as the Phoenix Emperor and the Demon Emperor didn't interfere, the Sea Emperor was dead. All the heavily injured Emperor's eyes were about to spit out blood. The self-destructive flames that the Eagle Emperor had ignited with his life were not easy to deal with. It was definitely not something the exhausted Sea Emperor could deal with. The truth was as such. The Sea Emperor, who was floating on the surface of the sea, endured the incandescent flames and was about to be burned to ashes. At this moment he only had less than a third of his body and half of his head left. At that moment he couldn't even let out a miserable scream. Emperor Rock and the others watched happily, their eyes filled with joy. Die for my brothers. Your Majesty, Demon Emperor. The Turtle Prime Minister kowtowed heavily and pleaded. The Phoenix Emperor has facilitated the cooperation between the two races and jointly proposed a plan to destroy the world. We have shown our goodwill and sincerity to each other. The billions of sea creatures of the sea race are already prepared to counterattack. We are only waiting for the Demon Emperor's order. The two Majesties have also returned with the Demon Ancestors' treasure, the sea-suppressing divine staff. The unification of the Black World is imminent. Why do you have to be impulsive and delay the overall situation? Your Majesty, the demon's current priority is to destroy the humans of the Black World. Now that the sea race has returned to the demons, they are your Majesty's subjects. Why can't you show us some mercy? Your Majesty, the overall situation is more important. Half of the Phoenix Emperor's body trembled violently. The Demon Emperor took a deep breath as his cheeks trembled. He turned to look at the Phoenix Emperor. Brother Phoenix, The Phoenix Emperor was too familiar with the Demon Emperor. From the Demon Emperor's eyes, it was clear that the Demon Emperor was tempted. He wanted to save the Sea Emperor and achieve greater accomplishments. He wanted to become the ruler of the demons after the sea race. The Phoenix Emperor closed his eyes. Logically speaking, he could completely understand the Demon Emperor's choice. The results of this battle were tragic. Emperor Rock and more than 70 demon sages had been shot by the arrow of Nirvana and lost their combat strength. At the very least, they could not be relied on for the next 10,000 years. As for the other half-sages and great sages, they had long perished. This power, at least for now, had been completely lost. And this combat strength could be said to be the most elite combat strength below the Demon Emperor and Phoenix Emperor. It had been lost just like that. Right now, the demons were trying to destroy the human race. Suddenly losing this combat strength would definitely cause the battle to lose its stability. How could they make up for this loss? As long as the sea race was subdued, it would be fine. Although the sea race had suffered great losses in this battle, their main force was still intact. On the eve of a great battle, as a king, how could he ignore the overall situation because of a moment of impulse? Did he have to offend his allies to death? In particular, he had already obtained the sea-suppressing divine staff. The important sea race officials had even declared their allegiance to him. Furthermore, Prime Minister Turtle had promised on behalf of the Sea Emperor that the sea race would return to the demon race. This meant that the sea race, which had not returned to the demon race for 150,000 years, would return to the demon race. His identity as a demon emperor would advance further. This was a glorious achievement. How could he lose the big picture because of a small gain? The Phoenix Emperor sighed and slowly took a step back. As Emperor Rock and the others' joy turned to disappointment, disappointment turned to despair, and even despair, the demon monarch took a step forward. A dragon roar shook the sky. Following that, a resplendent wave of vitality scattered down. Wherever the vitality passed, a graceful golden dragon suddenly appeared in the sky and shouted, "Open!" Clear air flowed in all directions, completely separating the remaining incandescent flames. The clear air mixed with infinite vitality was completely injected into the Ocean Emperor's already fragmented body. As the white flames were isolated, the refreshing aura flowed around the Sea Emperor's body. The golden dragon in the sky opened its mouth again, and a golden beam of light landed on the Sea Emperor's body. The Demon Emperor's thoughts were very simple. Prime Minister Turtle had sworn that the Sea Emperor would return to the demon race with the sea race. Since he had decided to take action, he might as well do it thoroughly. Not only did he have to save the Sea Emperor, but he also had to help him recover. Only then could he appear glorious and approachable as the Lord of the demon race. Boundless vitality flowed endlessly into the Ocean Emperor's broken body, on the ground. Emperor Rock and the other 70-plus sages watched this scene in a daze. All of them were expressionless, but tears rolled down their cheeks. They had been beaten to the point that they could not move. The Eagle Emperor had resolutely self-destructed for his brothers, protecting everyone and successfully protecting the sea-suppressing divine staff. Now, his sacrifice had become meaningless. The Emperor of a generation didn't even get a single scapegoat. He had already relied on himself to cripple the Sea Emperor, cripple him, and was about to kill him and perish together with him. But he was saved by the master he was loyal to. What else was there to say? Countless heavily injured demons instantly felt that their hearts were completely dead. The remaining 6 sages of the Eagle race didn't cry. They were all expressionless. Their eyes were gloomy as they lowered their heads. They didn't look at the Demon Emperor again. The Phoenix Emperor's figure flashed and landed in front of everyone. A red halo of light that contained dense vitality poured out as if it was free. It enveloped the bodies of all the demons, and at the same time she sighed softly. "Brother Peng, you guys have to understand that we have no other choice." The Tiger Emperor snorted and was about to speak when he was stopped by Emperor Rock. Emperor Rock raised his deeply lowered head gently. His face was already calm. He chuckled and said, "Brother Phoenix, there's no need to say anything else. We understand. We understand. We don't care about trifles. For the sake of the demon's great cause for thousands of years, some sacrifices are trivial. This isn't the time for us to throw a tantrum." The Eagle Emperor panted for a while. Under Emperor Rock's stern gaze, he smiled and said, "The world annihilation strategy is definitely a decisive battle with the humans. Everyone has long been prepared. For the sake of the demons, sacrifices are inevitable. Although I, Old Eagle, don't want to die and am even more afraid of death, it doesn't matter if it's my turn. It's all for the demons." The Leopard Emperor said, That's right, that's right. We have all seen the Demon Emperor's grand plans and foresight. Indeed, we should focus on the overall situation now. However, Brother Phoenix, we can only say with shame that we won't be able to help our brothers anymore. We actually became deserters before the great battle." "Really? Sai, I don't know what to say. Today is Aunt's 87th birthday. I drank 2 cups. Chapter 1489. The Phoenix Emperor let out a long sigh. The Sea Monarch's arrow of Nirvana is truly too vicious. Even if I use all my Nirvana vitality to help you recover, the effects are still limited. Perhaps you don't need to sleep for 10,000 years, but you still need a considerable amount of time to recuperate. During this period of time, please rest and recuperate. Leave the subsequent matters to me." All right. The emperors nodded gratefully. "I'll look for the Sea Monarch later and see if he has any items or methods to eliminate the arrow of Nirvana. Even if it's just a little slower, it'll be good." The Phoenix Emperor sighed. "Thank you, Brother Phoenix." Emperor Rock had a look of endless gratitude. "Brother Phoenix, can you see if there's any hope of Little Eagle returning? The flames of Nirvana are the best at reversing life and death and condensing one's soul." The Phoenix Emperor let out a long sigh. "I can't." Little Eagle risked his life, but his soul and origins were destroyed. Emperor Rock choked for a moment before chuckling strangely. "We brothers have been together for so many years. I didn't expect Little Eagle to be the first to be freed. Damn, I'm so envious of him." "Ah." The Tiger Emperor laughed as well. "I'll go take a look at Little Eagle when I return. No matter what, I have to help him take care of his people. Haha, now that he has nothing to worry about, we'll have to be very busy." The Leopard Emperor licked his lips and said, "Brother Phoenix, since you can't use your Nirvana vitality on Little Eagle, contribute more to us. I don't want to be unconscious forever." "Ah, please." The Phoenix Emperor smiled and said, "We're all brothers. There's no need to stand on ceremony. What's mine is everyone's. I'll do my best." As he spoke, he waved his hands continuously. Countless Nirvana vitality rained down like a torrential rain, covering all the injured demons present. On the other side, countless sea creatures watched as the Sea Monarch recovered. Not only was he no longer dead, but he had also recovered a significant portion of his origin's power. With the Sea Monarch's own strength, he could barely condense a body. He stood weakly on the mountain peak and conversed with the Demon Emperor, who wielded the sea-suppressing divine scepter. The Phoenix Emperor turned around and left, saying a few words to the Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor did not say anything and kept the sea-suppressing divine staff. After which he turned around and walked over. His face was filled with shame. "Brothers, I've come late. I'll help all of you heal now. With the combined strength of the Phoenix Emperor and I, we'll definitely be able to greatly reduce the time needed for all of you to recover. Emperor Rock and company were filled with gratitude. Thank you, boss. The Demon Emperor laughed heartily. Since you call me boss, what else is there to say? With a wave of his hands, an even larger golden dragon reappeared. Boundless vitality filled the air and enveloped the injured. The demons immediately benefited greatly. They were originally on the verge of death, but it was obvious that they had greatly improved. After the Phoenix Emperor said a few words to the Sea Monarch, he brought an interspatial ring over. Emperor Rock and the other great demons present received quite a number of special grade treasures from the seabed. No one can cure the arrow of nirvana. There will always be some resistance. More. With your foundation cultivation, not only will you not be in a coma, but you also won't have to recover for 10,000 years, he carefully calculated and said, I think that with the combination of my Nirvana Spirit Fire, Brother Dragon's Golden Dragon Core, and these targeted spirit herbs from the Sea Monarch, all of you will be able to recover about 30% of your strength in a month. However, the rest will require a long period of recuperation. You have to be prepared. Don't be impatient. More haste makes waste. Emperor Rock was overjoyed when he heard that. He said happily, I thought that I was going to become useless and could no longer participate in the battle. That's such a pity. So there's such a turning point. That's great, that's great. The Tiger Emperor, Leopard Emperor, and the others were grateful. It's all thanks to Brother Phoenix. The Phoenix Emperor let out a long sigh. I only hope that the resentment in your hearts can be slightly reduced. This time it's me and... Emperor Rock was displeased as he cut him off. Brother Phoenix, what are you saying? What resentment? How can there be such a thing? We brothers are loyal. There's no need to distinguish between us. The Phoenix Emperor closed his eyes and looked up at the sky for a long time before opening his eyes and looking at Emperor Rock. Really? Emperor Rock looked firmly into the Phoenix Emperor's eyes and said, I've already said that brothers are loyal. Brother Phoenix, do you not plan on being loyal to me anymore? The Phoenix Emperor nodded. I understand. I misspoke. You really think too much. It's easy to get hurt when one is too smart. Sai, what am I saying? You don't have to worry about us. You definitely have a lot of things to deal with on your side. Now is the critical moment of carrying out the world annihilation strategy. The overall situation is more important. We will return and recuperate. As long as we recover some strength, we will immediately come to help Brother Phoenix. All right, I'll wait for you, said the Phoenix Emperor solemnly. Not long after the sea race and the demons' upper echelons chatted, Sea Monarch expressed that he needed to recuperate and return to the sea. Phoenix Emperor and Demon Monarch turned around and expressed their desire to send Emperor Rock and the others back. However, Emperor Rock and the others firmly refused. We're already half crippled. It's already reckless of us to be able to stay alive this time. Why are you wasting your energy to send us off? Although we're heavily injured, we can still rush home. Remember to send experts here as soon as you get back to take over this mountain, lest Supreme Cloud blows it up again and cause more trouble. That's right. The 4 mountains over there have already been destroyed by Little Eagle. Quickly get people to move the mountains to fill the gaps. It won't be good if we are delayed. We'll rest here for a while and recuperate before we leave. I'm afraid that we won't be able to participate in any major events for a very long time. As a member of the Demon Clan, we can't contribute to the world extermination stratagem anymore. It's really shameful. If Brother Feng and Big Brother were to personally escort us, we brothers would die of shame. Go. Don't worry about us. We're fine, ha. On the way back, the Demon Emperor looked relieved. Brother Phoenix, did you see that? Little Peng, Little Tiger, and the rest are much more sensible now. As the ancients said, one's growth can only be seen after experiencing many things. It's the same for the demon race. The Demon Emperor was excited. I might be the first Demon Emperor to unite all the demon race on land, sea, and air. This great achievement was unprecedented and would never be replicated in the future. A hint of worry flashed across the Phoenix Emperor's eyes as he said absent-mindedly, yes. The Demon Emperor was in high spirits as he laughed. Although we've lost some men this time, the return of the ancestral demon's sacred relic proves that fate is on our side. We have more confidence in launching a counterattack on the continent, and the demon race will prosper. Who would have thought that the divine oceanic staff at the bottom of the sea would be stolen by Supreme Cloud? Not only did he steal it, but we also got lucky in the end. Ha. Even the heavens are on our side. The Phoenix Emperor was still in a daze. Yes. The Demon Emperor sighed. It's a pity for little eagle, he shouldn't have died, sigh. The Phoenix Emperor suddenly snapped out of his daze. Brother Dragon, what did you say? The Dragon Emperor was stunned. I've been talking for so long but you didn't hear a single word? This was a rare situation for the Phoenix Emperor. Although it was rare, the Spirit Demon Emperor was still unable to suppress the depression in his heart. Did I just make a pair of charming eyes for a blind man to see? Brother Phoenix. The Demon Emperor said unhappily. The Phoenix Emperor was a little embarrassed. Say it again. The Demon Emperor looked like he had eaten **tea. Controlling his temper, he said it again. The first time he said it with indescribable excitement and joy, but the second time he was especially depressed. The Phoenix Emperor nodded silently as he sighed in his heart. Brother Dragon, my Emperor, perhaps you really don't understand what you've lost today. What you've lost might very well be the entire demon race. But seeing how excited the Demon Emperor was, the Phoenix Emperor was not interested in tearing him down. After thinking for a long time, he suddenly asked, Brother Dragon, there's something I've always wanted to ask you, but I was too embarrassed to ask. The Demon Emperor said, What is it? Speak. Finally changing the topic made him feel energized. The Phoenix Emperor said in a low voice, I just want to ask you, about the 9-life cat, did you regret it? Now that the cat is gone and the old friend is gone, I want to hear the truth. The Demon Emperor, who was flying forward excitedly, suddenly stopped in midair. His face darkened. Brother Phoenix, what do you mean? What truth? The Phoenix Emperor smiled. It was just a sudden thought and I was just asking. The Demon Emperor said, Can I not answer? The Phoenix Emperor's smile was still warm. No. The Demon Emperor. He pondered for a long time before he finally sighed and said, Speaking of regret, how could I not regret it? After all, we are brothers. That year we once said that we would fight side by side, share weal and woe, share wealth and fortune, and never abandon each other. However, at that time, a flame of anger rose in my heart and I did that thing in my rage. However, since I did it, even if it was wrong, I still did it. What's the use of regretting? Since it's useless, what's there to regret? The Phoenix Emperor was stunned. Suddenly he was tongue-tied. Could it be that you've always known that you were wrong? The Demon Emperor looked at him in surprise. What are you talking about? Isn't it clear who's right and who's wrong? The Phoenix Emperor could no longer describe his shock. He stared at the Demon Emperor. He felt that his brain, which had always boasted of being the best in the world, had short-circuited. Back then I was wrong. How would I know that my son had done something inhumane? From the beginning to the end I've let him down. I've let my brother down. The Demon Emperor said, But the moment I learned that my son had been killed, I really couldn't control myself. I directly suppressed the 9-life cat. Back then, I didn't kill him on the spot because of our many years of brotherhood. The Phoenix Emperor continued to stare blankly. He increasingly felt that he had been an idiot all these years. An idiot with wishful thinking. Later on, the matter became bigger and bigger. At least, it was already impossible to stop. The Demon Emperor was dispirited. In order to stabilize the situation, I could only make the best of it and continue like this. Moreover, I'm ultimately the demon race's lord. My son is also the young lord of all the demon race, including the 9-life cat. That's not wrong, is it? The 9-life cat can kill my son today. Then does that mean he can kill me tomorrow? If I don't kill him as a warning to the others and shock the entire demon race, where will my dignity be? The Phoenix Emperor closed his eyes. After a long while he asked, Then I asked you so many times in the past. I'm happy today. The sea-suppressing divine scepter, the demon race's most precious treasure, has returned. My achievements in life have risen to a new level. It's also worthy of us two brothers. There's no harm in sharing some intimate words. Previously, in front of outsiders, my first identity was the demon race's lord. Brother Phoenix, I can't be wrong. The Demon Emperor said seriously, I have to consider the big picture. Everything else has to be put aside. The Phoenix Emperor fell silent. He didn't speak for a long while. The Demon Emperor was very interested. Brother Phoenix, the world extermination stratagem is at hand. The sea-suppressing divine scepter has returned at this time. It's bound to increase the morale of our race. It's a pity that little Peng and the others can't be used for the time being. This means that more than half of the demon race's high-level forces have been wiped out. Think about it carefully. How many people can the other races still mobilize? The Phoenix Emperor thought for a long time and said dejectedly, After today's incident, the peak strength of the demon race, which has reached the saint-level battle power, is only our two races. As for the other races, only the Emperor is at the beginner level of the saint level. They can't be of much use, the demon Emperor frowned. How can you calculate this? Little Peng and the others are only injured and temporarily disabled. However, the Eagle, and Tiger clans will leave behind the elite battle power of their clans when they go to war. There should be quite a number of them at the beginner level of the saint level. It shouldn't be difficult for these few clans to mobilize another 20 saint-level battle power, right? The Phoenix Emperor was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled sadly. Your Majesty, you still dare to think about it? These few clans will not send any more battle power. The Demon Emperor's face darkened. What do you mean? The Phoenix Emperor looked sad. He smiled bitterly and said, Brother Dragon, let me ask you. When we were on the mountain top, I hinted to you many times about how to compensate the demon race experts who died in the hands of the sea race. Why didn't you say anything? Also, why did the sea-suppressing divine scepter fall into your hands in the end? Little Peng, Little Eagle, and the others risked their lives for it. Little Eagle even died because of it. Why didn't you say anything? Did you not see their achievements, or did you not see them at all? Or, in your eyes, there is only the sea-suppressing divine scepter and nothing else? The Phoenix Emperor looked sharply at the Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor said indifferently, How can that be? I naturally saw the achievements of my brothers. I saw it with my eyes and remembered it in my heart. But at that time the sea race was still at the side. Both sides had just reconciled. Who from the sea race said that they would return to the demon race? After all, they had not taken action yet. If they expressed their gratitude to Little Peng and the others on the spot and rewarded them for returning to school, wouldn't that agitate the sea race and intensify the conflict? Now is the crucial moment of the world extermination strategy. Little Peng and the others can't be counted on anymore. Do we have to push the sea race away? If the sea race goes back on their words, we will have to pay with the lives of the 10 billion demons. That is a huge price to pay. The Demon Emperor said, There are priorities. Little Peng and the others are our brothers. Naturally, we have to take care of the outsiders first. This is the overall situation. Why didn't Brother Phoenix think about this? I thought you understood. The Phoenix Emperor's lips curled into a mocking smile. But he did not say anything. My brothers, take care of the outsiders first. Take care of the outsiders first. Next, the world annihilation strategy will focus on the dragon and phoenix race's combat strength, said the Phoenix Emperor silently. Not a single outsider can be used in the core positions. What? The Demon Emperor was puzzled. That will drain the dragon and phoenix race's foundations. The Phoenix Emperor said sternly, That's the only way now. Or do you hope that I won't interfere in this matter? The Demon Emperor shrank his head and fell silent. He was somewhat dissatisfied. Why are you being so fierce? Haven't I treated you well enough? On the mountaintop. After a round of treatment, Emperor Rock and the others finally had the strength to move freely. One by one they returned to their human forms and stood up. The feeling of having their feet on the ground again did not make them feel comfortable. All they could feel was their extremely weak bodies. Then they looked at the demon corpses strewn all over the ground. No one spoke for a long time. They only felt a heart-wrenching pain. 300 mid-level Saint Monarchs, 200 high-level Saint Monarchs, and 130 half-sages, 85 sages, 8 Emperor Realm Greater Demons. Emperor Rock's calm expression suddenly contorted. 300 middle-stage Great Lords, none left. 200 high-level Great Lords, all dead. 130 half-sages, all dead. There are also 85 sages. A total of 17 have died. Little Eagle has also died here. The remaining 68 sage-level demons are also heavily injured. They won't be able to recover their combat strength for at least 10,000 years. The 7 emperors can forget about attacking for at least 100 years. Without 3,000 years of recuperation, returning to their peak is just a joke. Emperor Rock turned his head and looked to the other side. Countless sea race powerhouses were working hard to move mountains. All the surviving sages turned their heads coldly and looked at the busy sea race members from afar. There was only bone-deep hatred in their eyes. The Tiger Emperor slowly stood up and said coldly, I was almost disgusted to death by myself just now. Brother Rock, I'll remember you for the rest of my life. Emperor Rock said coldly, Thank you for remembering me for the rest of your life. Don't forget for even a moment. Tell me, am I wrong? You're not wrong. The few emperors said in unison. Without you taking the lead, everyone might not have said such disgusting words. After the first sentence, the rest is nothing. Emperor Rock sneered and said, "Who wants to be shameless? Who doesn't want to take revenge?" In the previous battle, only Little Eagle and I were injured and unable to fight anymore. After that, we didn't suffer the arrow of nirvana. At the final juncture, Little Eagle sacrificed himself. I, who was nearby, saw it clearly. Can any of you be more sorrowful and in more pain than I am? In that situation just now, wasn't I the first to jump out to be shameless and let down the dead Little Eagle? If I let you express the hatred in your hearts and let your brothers die here, how can I let down the dead Little Eagle? In our current situation, how can we fight back against the dragons and phoenixes? How much authority can we have? If we don't care about our honor, can we still live? If we all die, we will be letting down Little Eagle. In order to cooperate with the sea race, aren't you showing great kindness by killing us troublemakers? For the sake of the overall situation, what's there to feel regret about sacrificing us weak soldiers? If we show hatred and disloyalty, what will happen? Don't you know what will happen? These 2 chapters were naturally planned long ago. However, after writing it, I put myself in the shoes of the Demon Emperor and thought about it carefully. Should I disregard everything and choose my brothers or the overall situation? If I choose my brothers, I will definitely break off relations with the sea race. If I choose the sea race, I can foresee my brothers falling out. Even if I don't consider it from Shuangwen's point of view. If it were the wise emperors in our history, what would they choose? There's no way to have the best of both worlds. If it were me, I might be emotional. Therefore, at this moment, I reflect deeply. I don't have any great achievements in my life. Perhaps this is the reason. I'm too emotional. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.